It was on this very day back in 1978. So we're taking you back 47 years, November the 18th, 1978. Billy Joel went to number one on the U.S. album charts with his sixth studio album, 52nd Street. And, by the way, it was the first commercial album to be released on this newfangled thing called a compact disc. Yeah, it was vinyl or cassette, but along came the CD, and 52nd Street was the first album to be released in that format. A song from said album, 52nd Street by Billy Joel, was the one you just heard, It's My Life. Takes me back to the 1980s. Do you remember the sitcom with a young Tom Hanks and an equally young Peter Scolari? Peter has since left us, sadly, but Tom Hanks went on to much bigger and better things than the sitcom called Bosom Buddies, where he and Peter Scolari could not find a place to live, so they moved into an all-female apartment building and dressed up as women so that they could live in the all-female apartment building. These are the things we put on the television for entertainment back in the 1980s, and My Life by Billy Joel was the theme song to said show. That makes me think of this past weekend, and I hope you heard us talking about it on Friday. The excellent writer Joel Rubinoff, recently retired from the Waterloo Region Record, has begun a film festival, an annual event now. This is number 2, so you have to call it an annual film festival led by Joel Rubinoff. And this year, he's taking a look at time travel through a series of 6 movies at the original Princess in Waterloo. I was invited to speak, be a part of a panel discussion at the end of Groundhog Day, which was the first film in the festival on Sunday. And one of the audience members, a young man, asked if I could go back to any decade, what decade would I go back to? And I was sharing the stage with Louisa D'Amato, another excellent writer, still doing work with the Waterloo Region Record. And Louisa talked about a little bit later in her life, in her 40s, she met the man that she's still with today and how wonderful he is and how she was feeling more comfortable in her skin. My answer immediately went back. I mean, I'll tell you this for free. I feel more and more comfortable every day. I thought my 40s were a great decade, and then my 50s came along, and it just gets better. Trust me, kids, it actually gets better, I think. Has for me. Sorry if it hasn't for you. But I've been enjoying these maturing years. I mean, I'm only going to mature so much. Let's be honest about that. But my answer always went back to, if I could go back to any decade, it was the 1980s. Not because I loved being a teenager or I loved high school. I think I, quite frankly, hated. I know I'm not supposed to use that word. I'm sorry to my friend Neil Aitchison, but I think I pretty much hated both of those things, my teenage years and my high school years. But the decade, I mean, TV like Bosom Buddies and take your pick, the Dukes of Hazzard, Miami Vice, the clothes, the music, the video arcades where you could play games for a quarter, the music stores we could go into and browse, and just before the decade started, the CD came out, like I just told you about with Billy Joel. I went on a bit of a tangent there, but gosh darn it, the 1980s were a great decade. I don't know who I was at the time. I mean, I was still me, but that version of me, I cannot possibly figure out. I don't know how my parents did it. I don't know even if they tried to do it. But what a great decade. It was bright. Nobody cared. We might have had a little hole in the ozone layer, but everything was fine. Everything was fine. The minute we begin our show every day, the phone lines open up. This is the most interactive show anywhere in the region, and our phone line started to ring right away this morning. So Mary must have something very important to say. Good morning, Mary.
Oh, yeah, really important. Thank you for that song. I was dancing around the kitchen like crazy.
Atta girl.
Yeah, well, you know what? That was my exercise song back in the 80s.
Really?
Billy Joel, yep. And got me going today.
I love it. Got me going, too. I'm glad it worked.
But you know what else?
What's that?
I got so much into kicking up my heels and doing different moves. I fell and broke my ankle.
Mary, you did not.
Yeah, and that's painful.
Mary, don't.
Yeah, but anyway, I still like the song, and I'm still dancing. Thank you, Mike.
All right, Mary, you're welcome. I'm glad that you enjoyed the song this morning. I did too. We play a little something for you every day that's got some connection to this day in music history. And by the way, on Fridays, you get to pick the music. So if you didn't hear me let you know yesterday or remind you yesterday, you can make a request on all Request Fridays. We'll play a little bit of your favorite song. The theme this week, we always try to make it a theme cover songs. So pick your favorite cover song, and we will play that as part of our All Request Friday show this coming Friday. Shoot me an email, mike@570news.com, or do what Mary just did and phone us anytime and let us know what song it is you would like to hear. I wanted to share with you my absolute favorite message that I received yesterday because this is somebody who truly understands me. 5 dump trucks, a front-end loader, and a bobcat. It's leaf removal day. That's right. Leaf removal day in Cambridge yesterday. 5 dump trucks, a front-end loader, and a bobcat. Just so we can pick up the leaves that we ask residents to rake to the curbside. Heaven forbid we rake the leaves into a pile, let the kids jump into the pile, and then put the leaves into a yard waste bag and leave it at the curb for collection. No, 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 no. What we ask for instead is merely that residents rake those leaves onto the road. Forget the hazard to people going by. Hazards. We don't need no stinking hazards. The only hazards we need are the dukes of hazards. 5 dump trucks, a front-end loader, and a bobcat. I'm going to say this again. Okay, I'll say 2 things. 1, stop it. Stop this service now, please. Number 2, any municipal councillor sitting at any horseshoe in our region today that voted in favor of the motion that declared a climate emergency needs to be sentenced to a day on the road with the leaf clearing crew. You got to see with your own eyes what is going on. There is no leaf collection ferry. I know we might think that because we rake the leaves to the side of the road, then we go to work. There is no leaf collection ferry. This is the goofiest service that we offer. It needs to stop. Please, can it stop? Do you mind? It would be a really good way to, save a little bit of money. Forget the environmental aspect if you want to. Just save the money. All right, let's get to your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, 18th of November. Number 1, it has been a busy few days for regional police. After a weekend shooting between occupants of 2 vehicles in Waterloo, regional police are now investigating a possible murder in Kitchener after a woman was found dead in a home in the Highland and Patricia area yesterday. Meantime, 5 men have been arrested, armed with handguns, after a robbery at Cambridge Centre Mall. And early this morning, a home in the Connemara Parkway and Town Line Road area of Cambridge was riddled with bullets during a shooting. Nobody was injured. Apparently, it was just the home that got the bullet holes. Number 2, the former Grand River Hotel in Preston is coming back to life. Ground has finally been broken there on a supportive housing project led by Indwell. The 45-unit building expected to be ready for occupancy by the end of 2027. Number 3, on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the Carney government lives to see another day.
Nays pour, 170, 170. Nays contre, 168, 163.
And there it is, the final vote on the budget last night, 170 to 168. And the $90 billion spending plan passes. The minority Liberal government survives the non-confidence vote. We're talking more about it on the show in just about an hour's time this morning after the 10 o'clock news. Number 4, some employees of online wholesale marketplace Fair, which is dual headquartered in Kitchener and San Francisco, will be able to sell their shares as a way to collect cash while the company remains private. Waterloo, Ontario-based True North Fund which is led by former Communitech CEO Chris Albinson, is one of the buyers. Fair is currently valued at more than $5 billion. That's down, though, from a high of more than $12 billion during the pandemic. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this Tuesday morning. The federal government is partnering with the Waterloo Region District School Board to invest a combined total of $220,000 to plant trees, enhance the quality of parks, and restore green spaces. Starting in 2026, the WRDSB will start planting about 680 native trees at 12 schools across the region. The project will focus on increasing canopy cover in communities with fewer natural park spaces. Students will also be engaged in planting some of the trees, helping to provide young residents with valuable knowledge and experience. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. I just want to go back to all of the things happening or that police are currently investigating because, I don't know, I'm feeling a wee bit on the uneasy side. So I'm going to get there in a moment, but we've got Mike on the phone with us this morning too. So let's go back to the phones for a second. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. A quick question for you.
Of course.
A quick comment.
Sure.
About the collection, the leaves out to the street. I know you're a fan of that.
It's the stupidest thing ever, Mike. It's the dumbest thing we do.
Yep. I'm one of the guilty parties that do that just because I got 2 big, huge trees, and even if I mulch it, it's about a foot thick. However, I did find out this year 2 things. One, there's a device called the lawn sweeper, and it's actually cheap. And you run across your lawn, it sweeps it all up into a hamper, and you just dump it in your bucket.
I've seen that before.
Easier to pick up the leaves with.
Yep.
It's awesome. And there's a dethatcher you can get, where it's a handheld one. You go across your lawn in the spring and picks up all those, a lot of the stuff in the springtime. And also, to top it off, the lawn sweeper, the one thing it does is those stupid little keys that come from the maple trees, those ones that fall down, and it's always a pain to rake up. It's so simple. So right now I have no reason to push things to the street because this thing makes it a lot easier.
Fantastic. And you know what else you can do, Mike? You can just leave the leaves where they fall. Like they're fine. They give nutrients to the soil over the wintertime. It's great.
True. But when I mulch mine, I get at least about half a foot or a foot of mulch. And that's too much. I was smothered of grass. So
I get you. So, and there are absolutely places like yours where there are so many. But the lawn sweeper, what a way to go, huh?
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep, awesome.
Thanks for letting. And
those little keys, it picks those up too.
And the other thing about it, because I've seen these things in action, like it's not motorized, is it?
No.
Yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. I love this, Mike. Thank you for that. All right, buddy. Thanks for the tips. Have a great day. See that? I say the not motorized part because I've seen my neighbor has one, and she's always out pushing this thing around. It's I find it kind of amusing because I just leave my leaves where they are, like whatever. I rake some of them up, and I put them in a bag, and I leave them at the road in the yard waste bag. Cool. Life is great. The thing about the lawn sweeper not being motorized, again, right? You're not finding another way to go against the motion of a climate emergency in these here parts. I was putting up Christmas lights the other day. Here I go again. Mike got me on the tangent. And my neighbor, God bless you, Mikey. I'm calling him out. The entire time I was up and down that ding-dang ladder, getting the lights across the front of the house, he had his lawn or his leaf blower out. I'm telling you, there is a special place in HE double hockey sticks for all of y'all with these leaf blowers. Most ridiculous, almost as ridiculous as curbside loose leaf collection. But I digress. I want to go back just for a moment to the current docket for regional police, okay? So I mentioned the weekend shooting. We talked about that on the Farwell Show 5 yesterday. Bridgeport and Weber area of Uptown, or of Waterloo, not quite on the Uptown, or in the Uptown. And police believe somebody was injured in that shooting, but they haven't been able to locate the person yet. But I found it unsettling that there was, a couple of cars in an area that I know all too well in my city shooting at one another. Like, what is happening here? And then there was a home invasion in the Morriston area, Puss Lynch, Wellington County OPP, investigating that. Now we've got shots fired into a home in the Town Line Road and Kenamara Parkway area of Cambridge. We've got an alleged murder in Kitchener. And I don't know, like, even if it's just Oh, somebody shot at a home. Oh, I wasn't nearby, and the occupants of both vehicles probably knew one another, so we shouldn't worry too much. I'm a little worried. How about the arrests of the people robbing jewelry stores, for crying out loud, with handguns? Come on. I don't know. I'm finding it a little unsettling. And yesterday on the show, we had an associate professor of political science from the University of Guelph on with us, Dave Snow, talking about the report he just co-authored looking at incidents of violent crime in Canada. And guess what? Across the country, coast to coast, over 10 years. This is not just a blip year over year. This is a 10-year trend that violent crime is increasing.
What we found primarily was that we looked at violent crime rates across a number of categories across 20 of Canada's largest census metropolitan areas using Statistics Canada data. And basically, the headline is that over the last decade, looking at rolling crime rates, violent crime is up in just about every city. I think the violent crime rate is up in all 20 of the CMAs that we looked at, which are roughly 2/3 of the Canadian population, and the Violent Crime Severity Index, which measures the how intense and the more violent the crime, the more severe the index, that was up in 19 and 20. And we found a lot of surprises in terms of the size of the city. So places like Kitchener, for example, Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, Census Metropolitan Area, its violent crime and violent crime severity actually increased the most of any of the 20 CMAs. We went by 71 and 76% over the last decade.
Increased the most, and the recent work for regional police might back that up. Those are just the raw numbers shared with us yesterday by Dave Snow, an associate professor of political science from the University of Guelph. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, Cambridge. Oh, Cambridge. You know I love you, right, Cambridge? I don't think your council, and frankly, your corporation, the city of, is functioning all that well right now. I'll explain coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. So the best way I think I can describe it is like this. I'm not sure anyone knew what was going on at a budget meeting for Cambridge Council last evening. It's the Strong Mayor budget, so the mayor presents the budget. Councillors, I'm pretty sure by procedure, can bring forward amendments to that budget for discussion. But that's where things start getting confusing in Cambridge, because a number of councillors were saying things like, I tried to bring forward an amendment, I followed the procedure, but staff wouldn't let me finish the amendment and get it onto the floor so we could talk about it. At the 11th hour, yesterday, those amendments were allowed, but what ensued at the Cambridge Council budget meeting was about as confusing as can be. And Councillor Adam Cooper was among those, not just confused, but frustrated.
This is actually a question for procedure here. There's already been multiple times here where things could be clarified a lot more with staff, and I know that's going to come up. I'd just like to ask, is there any good reason why we're not being permitted to question staff publicly?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's your prerogative if you want to bring an amendment forward without having staff involved. And
that it will still meet the criteria for an amendment. It will not be blocked.
Staff will not block. That's not our role to block. Our role is to support.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just want to make a statement. I'm very disturbed at that concept of saying that it would be blocked ever came up at all in any discussion.
Through you, Mayor. So again, staff aren't saying blocked. Staff are saying support. We are here to support council members to make good, sound decisions. That's all we're here to do. We want to be here to support you. That's our job. That's our obligation to the city and to yourselves.
That is not what was said to us. It was not what was said. Am I correct here?
So there's no sense debating this anymore. He has already stated that you will be allowed to bring those forward. So
okay,
can we not get into this and go after a staff person who is trying to be helpful?
I'm simply acknowledging what was said to us. That should never have occurred in the first place.
He's already corrected that, Councillor Cooper.
And that correction would have been the 11th hour decision yesterday to allow those amendments to come to the floor of the budget meeting after they were originally denied last week, even though councillors felt as though They followed procedure. And somebody who's been around council long enough to know would be Ward 2's Mike Devine. I kind of like what he had to say.
We have 9 people in this room that are elected for 4 years to represent this community and make decisions. We can all, if we all choose to, we can all turn it over to staff and sit here and nod our heads, yes, 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 yes. Well, I'm sorry, that's not what I'm here for. And I hope that's not what the rest of us are here for. The rest of us are here to make decisions for the betterment of this community. And there are times, and when it doesn't suit staff, when it ends up being a great debate. And personally, I don't need staff micromanaging my motions. I will go to staff if I need help or assistance, but I won't be micromanaged. And none of us should be. That's not what we're here for. We're elected to represent the city of Cambridge, the entire city of Cambridge, not just certain sections, the entire city of Cambridge. So we all need to remember that.
Councillor Mike Devine will not be micromanaged. I'll say this. I have never witnessed anything the likes of which I witnessed while watching that Cambridge Council meeting last evening. Staff are frequently, commonly asked questions during council meetings by members of council, and staff respond accordingly. Bringing forward amendments. I mean, this is not the first time we've done a strong mayor's budget. They did one last year. They do them in other municipalities. I can't quite figure out what the hang-up here is in Cambridge. But what it appeared to me to be was Mayor Liggett and staff on one side and the other 8 councillors on another. And that's not cool. It was a very odd dynamic, and one that is not going to help get anything meaningful done in Cambridge. We will explore this further, but this exchange, or these exchanges, yesterday's budget meeting in Cambridge, left me a little bit uncomfortable. And if you're a resident of Cambridge, brace yourself, because this is just not the way a council should operate, at least not any council that I've seen before. Going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then it's budget day at the region, and an interesting motion being brought forward by Councillor, one of the new guys, Joe Gowing, about taking an inventory of existing regional office space. Why do we need this inventory? Let's find out on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is a busy week at Regional Council as budget deliberations get back underway today. And a motion that's coming before Regional Council tomorrow caught my attention. So I have dragged Regional Councillor Joe Gowing out of the current meeting to make time for us to talk about this motion that's coming to Council tomorrow. Joe, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate your time this morning. Hello, Joe.
Hey, Mike. Sorry, I was having a problem with my earbuds.
That's fine. No problem at all. Thanks very much for stepping out of an important meeting today and discussing this motion with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm also supposed to tell you that Mr. Staunch says hi.
Come on.
Last night.
Yep. I'll have to make sure I pop by the house. I know exactly where that fella lives, so thank you for that. By the way, are you going to keep my taxes to 0% today in this budget meeting or what?
Well, probably not, realistically.
I appreciate the honesty. It helps the medicine go down better.
That's right. That's right.
All right. We'll have lots of time to discuss the budget because I know it's not being finalized today, just another discussion. But the motion that you are bringing to council tomorrow really did catch my attention. Corporate Facilities Strategic Plan sounds maybe yawn-inducing for some, but I don't know. I'm curious as to what might be behind this. So essentially what it sounds like you're asking for is an inventory of existing office space. Does that about sum it up?
Yes. There's a little more to it. Basically, what I've been doing for the last 2 and a bit months that I've been on council is touring around to look at the different facilities that we have, the different departments that we have and their facility needs. And I noticed that a lot of the times that I was going through, there was empty spaces. And so I started asking questions about what is our inventory, what is our utilization looks like, that sort of thing. And I was sent to a couple documents to take a look at, the asset management plan, which I did, and it tells me we have facilities and this is what it costs upkeep. Well, that didn't answer my question. Then I was sent to the corporate optimization plan that was brought forward before COVID. And of course, things have changed since then. So to me, that plan is obsolete. So there wasn't really a strategic plan or an inventory or something that I could tangibly look at and say, okay, well, what can we do with our buildings? Whether that be revenue generating, whatever the case is. And then second to that, the return to work policy came through and I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, we've increased since the pandemic, our employment. Do we have the spaces? Because in that corporate optimization plan was a suggestion to build an $80 million building to house these people. And so it started to get me thinking, what is our plan? And as I was asking questions, I don't think we have one, not to put staff down or put them in a bad place, but I think the reasoning is there, but I just don't think we have a solid plan on how things are going to look in the region if we start bringing people back to work.
I think that's one of the keys here, if we start bringing people back to work. And I know because, of course, as a public entity, it's been made public what the back to work plan is for employees at the region. But based on the empty spaces that you saw when doing those tours, Joe, is it your assumption perhaps that there might be enough space existing already? We wouldn't need that $80 million new building?
I don't think so, and this is the issue that I'm having is we don't know. That's why I put this motion forward to find out what is our capacity, what is our utilization of the buildings, what is our plan for these buildings, because I know that we're moving people around to get people back to work on December 1st, 3 days a week. So I'd like to know what the costing is going to be, because I'm looking at it as, okay, we are asking right now on the table is a 5% increase. Well, what is that? Why is that? Is there any other ways that we can look at revenue generating within the region so that we don't have to go onto the taxpayer backs? So that's essentially one of the other reasons that I was looking at this is to say, okay, if we keep people at home and operate as is, can we utilize these spaces that we have with revenue generating, whether that be renting out our spaces to community, that sort of thing. I'm looking at it as a lens of how can we make this work so that we're not going back on the backs of the taxpayers.
Is there a plan? Like, what if employees, I know, as you just said, 3 days a week as of December the 1st, but if it remains a hybrid type work environment, would those spaces always, forever, presumably remain empty?
That is the question, Mike.
Right.
I don't have that answer. I'm waiting to hear back, as the rest of council is. There's going to be a report coming back to us on that, specifically on the return to work. My second motion that I put forward is allow the December 1st to happen and then pause all future until we have a solid plan on our facilities and how they're going to be utilized.
Right, because as you mentioned, the employment number, the number of total employees went up during the pandemic. So again, if we go from where you were prior to 2020 and where we are today approaching 2026, there might not even be space enough for all of the new employees. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And if there is a model that we can use that is a hybrid model or a hotel sort of situation, that's what we need to know. But at this point, I don't think we know. And that's why I put these two motions forward, to figure that out, because I don't like to put money on top of money for the sake of putting money on it. I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the right reasons, and it has to be feasible.
What piqued your interest on this, Joe?
Touring around. I just, honestly, I had no agenda to do it, but when I decided to start going out to all the facilities that we have, speaking with people, looking at, like, it's very noticeable in 99 Regina, for instance, that we have space that's not being utilized at the moment. Then I started to talk about, then, like I said, this return to work came through, and I'm like, well, hold on here. What's our plan for it? And when I started asking questions, I just got the feeling that we're just trying to bring people back to be here without a plan. So that's what's kind of sparked it. Is I'm one of those people that I'm okay with that. Full disclosure, I've been working from home for 15 years, and I know it can be done, but there is something to say about sitting beside someone and having that camaraderie, having the ability to talk to somebody, but I don't think it needs to be a daily occurrence. So I think there's a way for us to continue down the road we are, because it's not costing us any more in the way of building an $80 million facility to accommodate people to come back to work, and B, it's allowing for somebody has the flexibility in their work schedule. People with disabilities, they can work from home, that sort of thing. So looking at the wider picture, I don't see the need to bring everybody back full time, because it's going to add costs to the region budget. And as we know, people aren't too happy with it at the moment.
Where does this go after the motion is tabled tomorrow? What's the process look like?
Well, that's it'll be put to staff to come up with it. There's kind of a two-piece prong to that facilities motion. One is a corporate strategic plan, and then there's a follow-up in there to a facilities business plan. And what that business plan is, because we have other areas and departments that have facility needs, and they've already have a plan for future growth. It's just bringing all of our corporate and all of those together into one facilities business plan, so that we can say, okay, here's our forecast for the next 5-6 years. Here's the need for capital investment or the cost of things. And frankly, it might come back and say, you know what, we have this building over here that's vacant. We don't need it. And there's no use for it in the future. So why not either turn it into housing or sell it off?
As interesting as I hoped it would be when I came across the motion. I think it's an excellent idea, and I look forward to the results. Joe, thanks again for stepping out of the meeting today to have this conversation with us.
All right, Mike, I'm going to get back at it.
Do it. Okay, we'll talk again. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks, Mike. Bye.
Joe Gowing is a regional councillor representing Kitchener. He was actually the most recent appointee. I wonder if his fellow councillors will regret their decision to appoint Joe Gowing after that meeting where everybody made their presentation to be a part of the council. And I say that because obviously Joe is bringing a fresh perspective to this, which is one of the things I like about turnover on councils, which we don't see an awful lot of, right? Incumbency reigns supreme, particularly at the municipal level. And so you have the same faces and the same ideas over and over and over again. And this is just somebody who's new to the whole process, was taking a tour around to get a sense of the departments, what they all do, what the places of work look like. And it occurred to Councillor Gowing that there is a lot of space that is currently underutilized. And with the back to work provisions at our regional government, beginning in just a few weeks, 3 days a week in the office, not even 5. So will that space remain underutilized? And if it does, is there a way to generate some revenue from that underutilized space? I think it's a very interesting question. And further to it then, why are we projecting the need for an $80 million facility that presumably very few, if any, people will even work in, given the new state of work, hybrid, work from home, etc. For the record, I remain a proponent of working from an on-site location. You take a job, you agree to the terms of that job, you are then in the employ of that organization. It can have their work from home. I think that should be, just personally, a flexibility that is wonderful to be offered when in need, right? But for the most part, I think the expectation should be 5 days a week in the office. That's just me. Regardless, I really like this approach from Councillor Gowing. I think it's an interesting thing to take a look at. And as he says, maybe not only will we save money on an $80 million capital investment for a new building, we might generate revenue from existing space. What do you think of what you just heard? Some fresh eyes taking a look at the facilities that the regional government has at its disposal right now. Your thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is to say, okay, if we keep people at home and operate as is, can we utilize these spaces that we have with revenue generating, whether that be renting out our spaces to community, that sort of thing. I'm looking at it as a lens of how can we make this work so that we're not going back on the backs of the taxpayers.
Joe Gowing, a newly appointed regional councillor from Kitchener, was getting a handle on how government operates, right down to the places where people work. And on his tour around those facilities, he noticed a whole lot of underutilized space. Granted, the back-to-work protocols for our regional government employees demand that they return to work 3 days per week starting December the 1st. So you're clearly not seeing full offices. But given the state that those offices are in and the underutilized space, would we ever need an $80 million facility, which is in the forecast looking ahead? Or maybe some of that underutilized space will remain that way and the region could generate revenue from it by leasing it out in some way, shape, or form. Interesting idea. The motion comes before Regional Council tomorrow. Joe Gowing joins us this morning to talk about it. And as always, I like to know what you think of these things. We'll go to the phones. Eric, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I know how to solve the financial and all that for our Waterloo region. First, get rid of Waterloo Regional Council. Amalgamate the cities. Elect you as Grand Poobah. Honestly, we don't need these many levels of government in this city.
Well, Eric, I appreciate that. And the vote of confidence for me as Grand Poobah, I have made it clear before that is the only way I will ever run for office if they create the position of Grand Poobah and I can compete for that. Here's the thing, and I don't disagree, first and foremost, that we have, A, too many layers of local government, 2 of them. We don't need that. And B, too many municipal politicians. And I don't say that as an insult to the work that's being done. We just don't need 59, count them, 59 municipal employees or municipal councillors throughout the 3 cities, 4 townships, and then the regional government. It's ridiculous. We could do with less. And all of the departments within the regional government, the 4 township governments, the 3 city governments, there's a lot of redundancy that could be eliminated there. Having said that, it won't result in the financial savings that I think many of you think it will. It really won't. But I don't even care as much about the financial savings that might be realized. I just care about doing things more efficiently and making us look like a modern, sleek, progressive community. I think this antiquated structure needs to go. Simple as that. I don't even care if there are savings, which there might not even be. For me, it's all about modernizing for today and tomorrow. Mary, good morning.
Good morning, Grand Poobah. Hey, I'm with everybody on the amount of getting rid of all these things, like amalgamation.
Let's do it. Amalgamate.
Let's do it. I've said that for a number of years. It's just crazy. Well, anyway, however, one building that I've been meaning, and I have called and haven't been able to talk to you, is the old bus terminal is sitting empty.
It still is. We're not sure what's going to happen with that.
Well, it's been empty for a long time.
It has been.
Well, wouldn't that house some of the people at the Weber the encampment?
Yeah, it's been talked about, for sure.
Yeah, but they don't do anything.
I know, Mary, I know. Hey, listen, before I let you go, you really concerned one of our other friends this morning, Lynn, who thought you really did break your ankle dancing to Billy Joel. You're okay, right? You didn't break your ankle.
Oh, I did, but that was in the 80s.
Okay. Thank you, Mary. See, poor Lynn thought you actually injured yourself this morning, and we don't want to mislead anybody that way. The old bus terminal on Charles remains vacant, remains an opportunity, shall we say, for this region to do something meaningful with. Right now, I like the way Councillor Gowing is going, and we'll follow this story and find out if there's a way to generate revenue from underutilized office space in the region. Some fresh eyes taking a look at things. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then the budget passed. We all knew we weren't going to an election, right? But now what, federally? We'll talk about it on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. As you no doubt know by now, it passed. And I think deep down, all of us knew it was going to pass, right? Nobody really wanted to go to the polls again before the end of this year. So with a vote of 170 to 168, the federal budget has passed. A budget with a $90 billion spending plan as part of it. Julie Simmons is an associate professor of political science at the University of Guelph. Joins us to talk more about this. Julie, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you walk us through this process that played out in the House of Commons yesterday, insofar as the Liberals didn't have enough votes because they're a minority government, so they had to either have some people not vote or get votes from other parties to help support their budget? How did this all play out?
Well, you're right there. They didn't have enough votes, and they did need to know that either there were going to be two people voting against the budget, two people voting in favor of the budget, or four people abstaining. That was another combination. And it turns out that there were two members of the NDP who abstained and two members of the Conservative caucus that abstained. One was Matt Genereux, who very recently resigned or stated his intention to resign in what many suspect was sort of a collapsed attempt to cross party lines anyways and join the Liberals. And Sharon Stubbs was the other Conservative member of Parliament who chose not to, or who abstained, but she's actually recovering from jaw surgery. And so it was actually kind of a convenient moment because the Conservative Party itself does not want to be heading to the polls. The public usually penalizes parties that send us to the polls, sort of in between natural breaks for elections. And I think that the Conservatives knew going in that they would provide that backing for the Liberals, regardless of what the NDP did.
It's interesting that with the two Conservative abstentions, the budget probably would have passed anyway, which is weird to think that, on a technicality, we could say it was the Conservatives that propped up the Liberals here.
It is so interesting because in the end, they had more abstentions than they needed. And, if it had been a 170-170 tie with two Conservative abstentions or even two NDP abstentions, then that would have been settled by the Speaker of the House, who is a Liberal. So the budget would have passed. So it's actually a really interesting situation. And it's as though the NDP and the Conservatives certainly were not, it suggests they weren't in conversation with each other leading to the vote last night.
Are you surprised at all, Julie, that the budget did pass? I mean, I personally didn't think anybody really had an appetite for another election, but perhaps you hear differently.
Well, I think that you've hit the nail on the head there. I think that Conservatives are probably the most financially capable of fighting an election right now, but politically speaking, their leader is at his lowest approval rating among Canadians since he's become leader of the party. And Mark Carney continues to see his approval ratings increase. So the latest Angus Reid poll just this week has him sitting at 52% approval rating. So that's a very daunting obstacle to consider, tackling in an election, especially if you're also saddled with the label of having been the party that put Canadians in yet another election cycle, which is not just a costly endeavor, but it also comes with a lot of uncertainty. And I think right now Canadians want some certainty. They want to see, that the government is taking measures that are really helping us out of a situation of precariousness with our relationship with the United States.
So this remains, of course, a minority parliament. Mark Carney remains our prime minister. The Liberals are leading this minority parliament. Where do you suppose we go next? What does the dynamic look like in our House of Commons now that the budget has passed?
Well, now that the budget has passed, there's, certainly a budget implementation bill that needs to be passed or tabled, and that puts in place all the pieces that were outlined in the budget itself. And so, we can see that the major initiatives are going to get off the ground that the Carney government has announced as important, from anything from, digital corridors and electrical grids to nuclear reactors to, attracting international researchers to, come to Canada to perform their research, and defense spending and all of these things. So, but inside the House itself, I think you'll continue to see, questions being asked of the government by the opposition parties, and in particular the official opposition. But it's very clear that certainly the Conservative Party, they don't want to be facing another vote with Canadians, especially since their own leader has an internal leadership vote coming up in January. So that will probably be part of his focus. I don't suspect that he'll have difficulty in that leadership review in January. He sold a tremendous number of Conservative Party memberships before he came leader, and so in a sense he owns the party faithful in that regard. So I don't expect that he'll have difficulty, but that will probably be a distraction for him in the short term.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because you would again have a better perspective. So sounds like Pierre Poilievre then remains on as Conservative leader, because there's been a bunch of speculation about that. And the other aspect to that speculation, Julie, is whether or not we see a softer, gentler side of Pierre Poilievre moving forward. Do you think there's any sense that Pierre Poilievre will change his approach?
I think that there's a lot of people who think it would be in his best interest for him to change his rhetoric and his manner, and even his relationship with his caucus members. And in some ways, I think he is his biggest obstacle in that change. Despite the fact that it would benefit him, I think, in endearing himself to more Canadians who see him as a little bit perhaps brash or harsh. And also, even within his own caucus, he certainly doesn't have the unanimous support of his caucus as these, the defection of Mr. d'Entremont to the Liberals suggests, and also Matt Genero's resignation. There's other things going on in the caucus. Those are sort of like the canaries in the coal mine. But, I sometimes think that at this point, at least, those more moderate voices within the caucus just do not have the energy, the will, the ducks in the row in terms of the people to consider any kind of a leadership challenge.
What this does for Prime Minister Carney and the Liberals, of course, is buy more time. You mentioned the popularity at 52%, which is a very nice number that I suppose Mark Carney can bask in for the moment. But historically, what we know about minority governments is they tend to last 18 to 24 months. So really, maybe another year or so for Mark Carney to embark on these major projects, and we'll see where it goes. But I think the opposition, especially once that review is done in January, will be looking for its next opportunity to bring down this government.
Well, we have to remember that even if the Conservatives want to have an election tomorrow, they themselves couldn't defeat the government, because you have to have the NDP on side. And even if the Bloc Québécois members vote against the government, you still have 7 NDP seats, which are important seats, and you have Elizabeth May as a Green Party member, and the NDP is not in any position right now to consider an election or, even a leader for their party. They have an interim leader right now. And so even if the Conservatives want that in 18 months, it really, in my opinion, it all turns on what the NDP is prepared to do.
So once again, the NDP, the most powerful party, despite having the fewest seats.
They do certainly hold the power in the sense of determining when the next election is. And so, yes, that is a lot of power, absolutely. And they do have fewer seats than the Conservatives and the Liberals and the Bloc Québécois. But, you know, there's another side of democracy, which is when parties get together and actually talk to each other and actually make compromises and actually, govern with the understanding of the position of the other. And we saw that in the last, 24, 48 hours with Elizabeth May saying, I don't know yet if I can support this budget. And then Carney reaffirmed his commitment to the Paris climate change goals in question period. And that was a request of hers. And then she came out publicly and said, I will support this budget. And so, I think she has the chance to, and along with the NDP, maybe shape a little bit of what the government is doing. But that's not undemocratic, right? Because that is how Canadians voted. And so to have those parties having to work together is a reflection of how the seats were allocated in the last election.
Great to get your perspective this morning, Julie. Thanks, as always, for making time for the show.
Oh, my pleasure, Mike.
Julie Simmons is an associate professor of political science at the University of Guelph. Like me, unsurprised that the government did not fall. Also thinks that Pierre Poilievre will survive quite easily that leadership review in January. Beyond that, I think things get interesting again, because I feel as though Pierre Poilievre and the opposition will be looking for that next opportunity to bring down this minority parliament. But as Julie points out, they can't do it themselves. There's got to be support from someplace else. And oh boy, those 7 NDP seats, how important are they? Are you disappointed that the budget passed? I mean, I don't think anybody really wanted an election before Christmas, did they? We'll get to the phones right before the break, in fact. Dave is with us, Farwell's Force member number 47. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I just want to give a quick observation on the proceedings.
Sure.
I quickly watched CBC News Channel instead of CPAC. And the CBC was carrying the vote live. And I quickly tuned in and saw the vote. And at the end of the vote, they go to the web on those who were unable to be in person. And usually that goes through lickety-split. But there was one member of parliament, no idea of the party, who turned around and was insisted on giving a speech rather than give the vote. And several times the speaker tried to get this member of parliament to exercise the right to vote. And finally, I don't know how it happened, but they ended up with the count that they did. But I was really disappointed, whichever party that person belonged to, in the fact that they were insisted on giving a speech rather than exercise the right to vote. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate the observation. I did not see that myself, but it wouldn't be the first time that somebody elected to office attempted to grandstand somewhat to get their own message out there, or their name in this case, perhaps even though that Dave can't recall said name. The budget passes. The minority Liberal government lives on through today and likely the next 365 days. How are you feeling following the vote on the budget? Are you disappointed today? Are you happy today? Does this mean we can start getting stuff done, like those major projects? Let's hear from you. On the Mike Farwell Show, this is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
That's a very daunting obstacle to consider tackling in an election, especially if you're also saddled with the label of having been the party that put Canadians in yet another election cycle, which is not just a costly endeavor, but it also comes with a lot of uncertainty. And I think right now Canadians want some certainty. They want to see that the government is taking measures that are really helping us out of a situation of precariousness with our relationship with the United States.
Julie Simmons is an associate professor of political science at the University of Guelph, joins us to talk about the big budget vote, which passed 170 to 168. Enough abstentions and support from Green Party leader Elizabeth May to push the budget through. And so this minority parliament lives to see another day. Are you disappointed? Did the budget underwhelm you like it did me, and you were hoping that this would be the vote of non-confidence that brought the government down just 9 or so months after its election? Your thoughts always welcome on the show. We'll go to the phones. Sean, good morning.
Good morning. I'm really not surprised. I mean, it was sort of a maintenance budget. Nobody wants an election 9 months later, especially. Who wants to be the guy that caused Canada to have an election going into Christmas? I mean, because Poilievre may rant and rave, but he's not in spite of his flaws, he's really not a dumb guy, and neither are the conservative strategists. They know that if they cause an election going into Christmas, it will not go well for them. Nobody wants it. In all honesty, everybody still needs time to lick their wounds after the last election. Like somebody said before, they haven't got their money from the previous election. The war chests are still pretty empty. Poilievre still, I don't think he's got full control over his party. I mean, he has the loyalty of the diehards in the core, but he's a little bit too abrasive to spread the message. So nobody wants an election, basically. I just think they just made a big show, and they're just going to carry on, quite frankly.
Sean, appreciate the call. I'm not surprised at all that we are in the position that we're in, insofar as there is not going to be an election before Christmas. I think Sean's point about licking wounds from the last election is an excellent point. And there wasn't an appetite. Now, give us a year, 18 more months max, and we'll see happen to this minority government what happens to what has happened to previous minority governments, and that is they tend to fall 18 to 24 months after being elected. Hey, quickly, speaking of Christmas, do you have your tickets yet in the 570 News Radio Tree of Hope 50/50 raffle? What do you mean you don't? FACS5050.com. FACS5050.com. Family and Children's Services is the beneficiary of these 50/50 proceeds. We want to raise lots of money for Family and Children's Services, and we want to put lots of money in your pocket. Guaranteed jackpot already of $50,000. I'm sure you could use $50,000. FACS5050.com. Get your tickets for as little as $10. And if you get them now, you're in for the early bird draw. We're making that first draw on Friday morning, a Kitchener Rangers VIP experience, stick signed by the entire team, a meet and greet with a Rangers player, and we're going to put you in the broadcast booth for a game with Josh Piercy and I as well. All of that, and you could still win the $50,000 plus jackpot. FACS5050.com. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Some of our local athletes have a really unique opportunity next spring to head over across the pond, so to speak, to the UK and learn a little bit more about the game that they enjoy so much. And you see, I say local athletes and the game that they enjoy because we often talk about hockey and soccer and basketball, right? But what about rugby here in our community? Those are the athletes that are going to have the opportunity to be in Scotland next spring and fundraising is underway. Jennifer Ball is the fundraising chair for the team and joins us for a conversation this morning. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning.
So, as I said, we tend to hear more about different sports like hockey and soccer and basketball and the like. So, tell us more about rugby in our community and the local rugby association and the athletes who compete.
The Waterloo County Rugby Club has been around since 1960 and offers rugby for everyone, from our youngest U6 players all the way up to adult men's and women's teams. One of the best things about rugby is how inclusive it is. Children of all shapes, sizes, and abilities can find a role that suits them, whether they are speedy runners, strong contact players, strategic thinkers, or trying a sport for the very first time. Our youngest age groups, the U6 to U10, play co-ed, non-contact flag rugby, which keeps things fun, fast, and safe while teaching kids the fundamentals of teamwork and movement. Contact isn't introduced until U12, and even then it's taught gradually and with a strong emphasis on proper technique and safety. We also offer a mixed ability team for players of any age or skill level, including those with accessibility needs. An amazing way for families and friends to play the sport together. Rugby is also an economical sport to get into. Kids mostly need a pair of cleats and a willingness to give it a try. The club continues to grow every year with over 350 youth players now involved. A major long-term goal for the Waterloo County Rugby Club is securing a dedicated field and clubhouse, a space the entire community can call home. With continued support from players, families, and local partners, we're hoping this will be in our future.
I absolutely love that low barrier to entry, right? A pair of cleats and a willingness to go and try the game, and 350 local athletes doing that. I love to hear it. So with this opportunity next spring to go to Scotland, these are the U16 and U17 boys and girls teams. How did they get this opportunity to go to Scotland next spring, Jennifer?
So a few years ago, we had a couple of coaches who have been a part of the rugby world since they were kids, stepped up and looked into taking the U16 boys team on tour. Touring to another country is a strong rugby tradition, and they wanted to bring that tradition to Waterloo. They looked into a sports touring company and decided on visiting the UK and Wales for their trip. The tour was such a success that we wanted to bring it back again for the next group of U16 boys, and this time include the U17 girls. We had such a great experience with the tour company that we used, so we contacted our tour guide from the last trip, and they helped us set up this tour to Scotland. This trip is 10 days long and includes training sessions, playing games against Scotland's rugby clubs, watching professional rugby games, surfing in the North Sea, guided walking tours, and enjoying the local cuisine. We also have been fortunate enough to host visiting teams from Wales and the UK when they went on their tours, and it is such a great experience bringing two countries together in a shared bond over rugby.
What does a trip like this mean to the kids who will take part, Jennifer?
A trip like this means so much to the kids. I could tell you what I think, but I feel it is better to hear their words instead. These are quotes from 7 of the boys and girls going on tour. Carly says this trip means connecting with others and having fun together playing a sport we all love. It's about the experience we're going to get, and the memories will stick with us for the rest of our lives. Max says the tour to Scotland is more than a rugby tour. It's going to be an experience of a lifetime. I'm excited to test my skill against other teams, but also for the friendships, new culture, and memories that will stay with me long after we come home. Kyla says a trip like this is huge for her. I've only been out of the country a couple times, and to go with my friends and not my parents makes me feel so independent. I'm excited to be able to see how different the place is compared to how my daily life looks. It will definitely make a stronger bond with my teammates and the Scotland team too. I'm looking forward to trading jerseys, and I want to hang mine up like a trophy. Kaylin says, I want to explore different cultures and people and explore the country. I can't wait to bring the Canadian rugby fight to Scotland, even though we may not win. I want to see another country and learn more about the Loch Ness Monster. Claire says this trip will give me the opportunity to experience more of the rugby culture. Devin says, I'm excited to try surfing as I have never done this before and to watch a professional rugby game live. It's also really hard to find good rugby equipment here, so I'm looking forward to checking out the rugby shops in Scotland. And Sarah says, this trip is an opportunity for me to travel and see the world. I love the sport of rugby, and I love the beauty of the world everywhere else, and to combine two of my great passions is a dream come true. It's an opportunity for me to explore somewhere outside of Canada and see what the other side of the world has to offer. This tour means a lot to these kids, as some of them have never left the province before, and this gives them an opportunity to do that. The bonds, friendships, and memories they will make will last a lifetime.
I might have to follow up, Jennifer, and get a full report on the Loch Ness Monster. I'm very interested in that aspect of this and so many of the others that you shared with us from the kids. I think that's great. Obviously, a trip like this doesn't happen by itself, and some fundraising is going to be required. And I guess that gets underway in earnest this weekend with a Christmas market. How are you going about the fundraising to make this trip possible?
So I was part of the fundraising committee for the previous tour in 2024, and am now the chair of the fundraising committee for this tour. I'm using my previous experience with fundraisers and events, as well as the input from the other parents on the committee, to guide our fundraising initiatives this year. Fundraising we have done so far includes a bake sale and community yard sale at our Rugby Family Day in July, a car wash in August, selling pizza kits in September, helping to clean up during Oktoberfest in October, and now for November, we are hosting a Christmas market this Saturday, November the 22nd, from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Trillium Lutheran Church at 22 Willow Street in Waterloo. We have over 25 vendors helping to make this event possible. Admission is $5 per person, and children 10 and under are free. We are also selling World Cups as an additional fundraiser at the market and collecting non-perishable food items for our local food bank to give back. We hope you can come out to meet some of our touring boys and girls who will be volunteering at this event and support them while doing your Christmas and holiday shopping. Another big way this trip is possible is by our sponsors. We have had a few companies sponsor us to help bring down the cost or have offered their products for our fundraisers and training. These companies include RBC Dominion Securities, Chef Adam Brenner, New Hamburg Home Hardware, TLC Pet Food, Paula Redden Massage Therapist, Spinal and Backwork, Barber Reno, the Lambert Group Real Estate, TNT Power Group, McIntyre Group Office Services, Smokey's Auto Service, High Tech Auto Sales and Service, and Robert Way. Although we have been blessed to get sponsors we have, there are still a lot of expenses, and we would be most grateful for any other companies wanting to sponsor our boys and girls for their tour to Scotland.
These kids aren't messing around, Jennifer. Bake sales, car washes, cleaning up after Oktoberfest. That's real work they're doing here.
It is. No.
Is there a way, you mentioned that, other sponsors would certainly be welcomed. Is there a place that folks can find out more or maybe make an inquiry in that regard?
Yeah, so they can always reach out to me as I'm the committee chair. We do have a reps or an e-transfer account that they can bring money in that way as well. But if they reach out to the Waterloo County Rugby Association, then we can discuss how they can best support the team and what that would look like with their company.
All right. I'll point folks to the website, waterloocountyrugby.com. Again, this Christmas market is happening on Saturday at Trillium Lutheran Church between 1 and 5. I love what these kids are doing. That's a whole lot of work they've already done, and I'm sure there's more between now and the trip next March. But thank you, Jennifer, for spending some time with us on the show this morning, and best of luck to the kids.
Thank you.
Jennifer Ball joining us, fundraising chair for the U16, U17 boys and girls Waterloo County rugby teams headed to Scotland next March. What an experience for these young athletes, and what an opportunity for us to shine a light on one of the sports that we don't talk as much about. Low barrier to entry on this one, too, just like we say when it comes to soccer, right? Got a pair of cleats? You got a willingness to learn and try something out? Rugby just might be that place, starting at U6. WaterlooCountyRugby.com. And again, that Christmas market is coming up on Saturday, 1 until 5 at Trillium Lutheran Church. You can help out the kids and help them get closer to that trip to Scotland next March. Speaking of Christmas markets, it must be that time of year, huh? Because we're getting closer and closer. I was listening to our friends actually yesterday afternoon and this morning here at the station over at Chime 96.7. They've gone all Christmas music, and I, for one, am here for it. There's never enough time in the year for the Christmas spirit, is there? I don't think there is. And our local German clubs get into this in a big way as well. There's another Christmas market coming up. We could make it a Saturday for Christmas markets. Help out the rugby teams, get ready for their trip to Scotland. Maybe do a little shopping for yourself at Hubertushaus in Mannheim. We'll tell you about that market coming up right after this on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I have said this before, and I will again. You know me. There's some German in these here bones. I love me some Oktoberfest, and it's not just because it's another good excuse to enjoy a nice, cold, adult beverage. I love my beer, but I don't need Oktoberfest for that. Any day that ends in Y is a good day for a nice, cold beer. But when it comes to Oktoberfest time and some authentic German fare, you're not going to get better Spätzle than you get at Hubertushaus, in my opinion. I mean, you can try them all for yourself if you want. I don't think it's possible to get Spätzle out. I'd like to try to find out if it's possible. Oh, I love me some Spätzle. But I bring up Hubertushaus because it is this weekend between 10 and 4 at Hubertushaus that there is a Christmas market happening. And here to tell us more about it, a gentleman that wishes to go by the name Frankie K. Frankie, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Why don't you call me Mikey F. and we'll just have a grand old time today.
Exactly. I love that. I love the whole Splatzer thing, and it was it is one of our main dishes out there that we really have a tough time keeping in stock there.
Well, I'm not surprised. If it wasn't so damn good, Frank, we wouldn't want it so much. But I'll tell you, it is excellent for sure.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
And I have no doubt that this weekend's Christmas market will be equally excellent. Tell us what's happening on Saturday, please, at Hubertushaus.
Well, this Saturday from 10 to 4, we are having I like to refer to it as our second Christmas market. Last year we had our first one, and it was very low key, families, Transylvania. But this year we wanted to take it to a new level, and it's something that we would like to further on as years go by. So we're going to have over 30 vendors there. There will be food, there will be drink, there will have your favorite adult beverage there as well. I'm making sure that it'll be there for you.
Appreciate that.
I expect to see you there. There'll be kids stuff there as well, and it's going to be a lovely time. It'll be held in our main patio area, so it'll be out of the elements. And there'll also be, the halls will be also open to sit and eat and mingle and talk. And yeah, it'll be a great, great time.
You mentioned, Frank, this will be the second year that you've done this. Last year, a little bit more of a low-key affair. But why did you decide to start the Christmas market at Hubertushaus?
Well, we are a very authentic German club. And we're growing in numbers, but not just that. It was maybe time to try to do something different, and we want to keep it traditional. We want to keep it, amongst the Germans, let's say, or amongst our community. So that's why we wanted to kind of keep this going, make it bigger, make it better. And I think we've got a great bunch of volunteers, great bunch of staff, and I know it's going to be a really well-welcomed event in our community, and hopefully next year and the year after and the year after that as well.
Well, we know that when we arrive at Hubertushaus, that spirit of Gemütlichkeit will be there. It doesn't just exist at Oktoberfest. And
absolutely,
I can't think of a much better connection, to be honest, Frank, between traditional German history and the season that is, and the celebration that is Christmas. They just seem to go hand in hand. So you mentioned between 10 and 4 on Saturday at Hubertushaus, over 30 vendors. What kinds of things might we be finding while we're there?
Oh, wow. We have a lot of different vendors. We have some of our favorite chefs that we have working in our Hubertushaus kitchen who does the Spätzle as well. She'll be selling some of her items along with, we'll be providing food. We'll have, there's so many to name. There'll be woodworkers, there'll be handcrafted knitting stuff, scarves, hats. There's a lady selling really lovely Christmas earrings. We've got woodworkers out there. We also have a young man who creates knives and stuff like that from steel. So he's a steel forger, and he'll be out there as well. There's too much. I think the best thing to do is for people to come down and take a look and say, that's what I want.
Do we just have to show up? Is there any admission to get in?
Just a big smile, Christmas spirit. That's it. If you don't have that, we're going to send you somewhere else.
Okay, that's fair. And listen, it's Christmas. If we're not smiling, then we're doing it wrong, I think. So
absolutely.
Saturday from 10 until 4, and you mentioned the dining hall will be open. We'll be able to enjoy some food and beverage while we're there as well.
Yes, we will.
Frank, I really appreciate your time on the show today, and you will see us on Saturday. We're looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Thank you for everything, and I can't wait to see you on the weekend.
I'm looking forward to it, Frankie K. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Frank joins us to talk about the Christmas market this Saturday, 10 until 4 at Hubertushaus. That is, of course, on Bleems Road in Mannheim. Runs from 10 until 4. So you can do the fundraising Christmas market for the U16, U17 boys and girls rugby teams. At Trillium United Church, you can do the Christmas market at Hubertushaus. Maybe grab a lunch while you're there. If you couldn't tell from that conversation, I recommend the Spätzle. But nonetheless, these are the markets that help us make Christmas that much more special. You get some locally handcrafted gift ideas, etc. It's never too early to start, because before you know it, we're going to be right there at that time with those days approaching, and we'll be thinking, wait a minute, did we get this person checked off our list or that person checked off our list? So let's support local, support one of our local German clubs, and enjoy some Christmas market time at Hubertushaus this Saturday, 10 until 4, Bleems Road in Mannheim. Speaking of the holidays, a reminder to you, if you have not already purchased your 570 News Radio Tree of Hope 50/50 raffle ticket. We're doing this in support of Family and Children's Services Waterloo Region, as we do every year. There is an early bird prize that's being awarded this Friday morning, and it's an early bird prize that gives you a Kitchener Rangers VIP experience. That means a one-on-one personal meet and greet with a Ranger player, a stick signed by the entire Rangers roster this year. And, oh yeah, Josh Piercy and I are going to put you in the broadcast booth with us for a game, and you can enjoy our view, and even if you're up to it, go on the air. That's just the early bird prize. The 50/50 raffle has a guaranteed minimum prize of $50,000, and you can get a ticket for as little as $10 just by going to FACS5050.com. FACS5050.com. Get in on the fun, get in on the prizes, and help Family and Children's Services of Waterloo Region at the same time. I mentioned that early bird draw being made Friday morning. And by the way, you can win the early bird and you're still in for the jackpot prize when that gets awarded. So you're not taken out just because you win the early bird prize. But Friday is when the early bird prize happens. Fridays on this show is also All Request Friday. We like to play for you the songs that you would like to hear at least a little bit of during the show. We're taking your requests this week for your favorite cover songs. That's the theme, cover songs. So drop me an email, mike@570news.com, or give Devin a call. He's on the other side of the glass today. Let him know what song you want to hear on Friday. Do yourself a favor, though. Don't pick K.D. Lang's cover of Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. It's already come up twice. Find a different one. We'll play your cover song requests on All Request Friday this week. An update from the 570 News Center, and then speaking of updates, it's updated for a new generation, the Wealthy Barber. Do any of those foundational financial tips still hold true today? We'll talk to the author of The Wealthy Barber next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I have little doubt that you know who or what the Wealthy Barber is. I say what because the author of this book is not actually a barber. He, in fact, still makes his home here in the region of Waterloo. And The Wealthy Barber has been one of the most successful personal finance books ever published. Over 2 million copies of the original sold in Canada. David Chilton, the author, has gone on to appear on The Dragon's Den, among other things. And there is now a fully updated Wealthy Barber. I've got it right here in my hands, and we've got the author, David Chilton, with us on the show this morning. David, good morning.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's nice to do some local radio. As you know, I'm a radio fanatic, so thrilled to be on.
Thrilled to have you here, and glad to have another radio fanatic on the air with me. All these decades later, David, why an update to The Wealthy Barber?
Well, people think I'm kidding when I give part A to the answer, but a lot of it's because I'm really old. And if I didn't do it now, let's be honest, I wasn't going to be able to do it. I mean, I'm getting up there. But the much more important reason is so many people in their 20s and 30s, and that's always been the book's target audience, are really scuffling right now. The cost of living is through the roof, not just the cost of real estate. Then you've got social media and the algorithms, of course, they're constantly trying to get us to spend with ubiquitously available credit. It's easy to give into that. So for all those reasons, and then you've got all the new accounts, TFSAs, FHSAs, new products like ETFs. There was a lot to bring into play that I thought could really make a difference and could help people to figure out how better to do this, what their priorities should be, what they really need to know, because there's a lot of noise out there, things you don't need to know. What are the basics, but fully explained that the 20-year-old and the 30-year-old and the early 40-year-old set needs to know, and put it all back into the novel format and use the stories and use the humor, and so far so good.
Almost 40 years later, David, do any of those, I don't mean to, hey, listen, I was there too. This actually, my dad gave me this book, by the way, just so you know. And I loved it. Good. I loved it then. It's still on my bookshelf today. And it did mean a lot to me. It really did. And I wondered, all these decades later, do any of those foundational principles that you introduced us to all those decades ago still apply today?
Yeah, interestingly, I would say the vast majority do, but some of them are tougher to execute. Now, on the good news front, there are some that are a little easier to execute because, as I mentioned, we have these new accounts like TFSAs and FHSAs, et cetera, and some of the new products make it more cost effective to implement some of the advice. But it is more challenging today for the mere reason that we've got a cost of living challenge. And that makes it very difficult to set aside money, which of course is where all this starts. We can talk about investing and all the things you can do there, but you have to save the money first. And a lot of people are rightly pointing out, boy, that's tough to do with the cost of food, the cost of housing. All of those things make it tough.
You talk about the cost of housing, and that's something that I know weighs heavily on the minds of many, particularly younger people. And let's be honest, it was a much different housing market 36 years ago when The Wealthy Barber first came out. When you look at young people today, would you advise them to buy a home or just stick in the rental market?
You know, it's a great question. I don't get asked that question often enough because so many Canadians are trained to think that renting is the wrong path. We often hear the expression, it's throwing your money away. It's not. You're paying for shelter. And in many instances now, because of the elevated home prices, it can be the more effective way to go, but only if people prudently invest the difference in the costs. And that's not always easy to do because, as I mentioned, the cost of living is high. Plus, you have to have the self-discipline to go that route. The home ownership chapter in the book has really been going over well because it doesn't gloss over any of this. It doesn't make it sound like it's easy and, oh, it's always been this tough. It hasn't always been this tough. So it realistically deals with all of the things you have to think through, the sacrifices that may have to be made. And again, the key thing is, how do you prioritize to this? So if you're saving for a down payment, what vehicle do you use? TFSA, do you use the RSP and the home buyer's plan? All of that matters. In these tough times, you have to make sure you're taking the best possible path because, again, careless mistakes can really sabotage the planning.
You talk about all of the different vehicles that exist today, the tax-free savings account, the first home savings account, and so many more. One of the other areas where people can make investments now, and maybe, you talked about those algorithms and all of the information that's coming at people. What about crypto? Do you weigh into that in this update?
I do in a couple pages. I mean, I'm fascinated by the space. I've been reading about blockchain for, 10, 15 years now. I have a lot of friends who are tied into the digital space in many ways. But I think for the average person out there, it's beyond us. It's almost impossible to figure it out. Most of these crypto coins, these cryptocurrencies, they don't necessarily have an underlying business. You can't use traditional analysis. There's a lot of fraud. There are a lot of scams. There's tremendous volatility. And for most people, it's not a mature enough industry. Even the wisest people within the space can't seem to divine what makes the most sense going forward. And again, the volatility is just too extreme. So I do talk about it. I look a little bit at Bitcoin, but for most people, I think you're better to stay to the tried and true principles, a well-diversified portfolio. You're investing in enterprises through equity funds, index funds, and leaving it alone for the very, very long term. Putting up with the ups and downs. There will be tough times. There's no doubt there'll be dramatic pullbacks. You've got to stay detached and just remember that if you're investing at age 28, age 34, you're investing for 30 and 40 years. Strangely, those pullbacks often work to your mathematical advantage. You're buying more shares at lower prices. That's all good.
Is there a financial mistake, David, that you continue to see people make that you just wish you could get through to them on and say, stop doing this?
There are two. It still drives me crazy how many Canadians don't take full advantage of the matching provision in their group RRSP. That one drives me nuts. And I think the book has really hit that hard. I mean, I was pretty blunt in the book and said, if you don't do that, you're nutty. And I hit it from a lot of different angles. And then the second one, I think anybody in the financial space says this, it's how much we spend on cars. And I have a lot of friends who own car dealerships, so I'm sorry to say that. But when I see the spending summaries of people, I see their budgets and I see the percentage of the revenue that's going to cars, often two cars because of the two-car family. It is wacky. And again, we have to have cars in many instances, but the percentage of our income we spend on them is over the top. And a lot of people could make a big difference to their financial plan with some cutbacks there. Sadly, though, the car industry has done a remarkable job of marketing. And over the years, we've come to define ourselves by our cars a little bit, or it's one of the areas we think we deserve that. But man, oh man, they are expensive.
I mentioned at the outset that I have an original copy of the first issue of The Wealthy Barber gifted to me by my dad, still on my bookshelf. And I'm that guy, Dave. I like books. I read newspapers. I like the tactile, tangible things in my hands. But let's be honest, it's a much different world again today versus 36 years ago when The Wealthy Barber first came out. And you're not, I don't think anyway, a finance bro. You're not an influencer online. How do you cut through that clutter and try to get people to take stuff like this in a form like this seriously?
Well, what's really interesting, again, you're asking great questions. That was my biggest concern. Was I knew that the information was going to be there in a way that could help people. And I thought the format, once I could get them into it, was going to be well received. But could I get them into it? Because that age group, as you mentioned, tends to like shorter videos and TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. But funnily enough, that's all worked to my advantage so far. I think people hear so much noise that they're overwhelmed by all the influencers, all of the messages being delivered on social media. And they're saying, hey, here's a trusted source, been around there for a long time, not trying to sell us anything. Once they get into the story, they really enjoy the characters and the humor and the flow. They learn along with them. I mean, that format, I'm not the sharpest guy in the world. And so I lucked into that idea all those years ago. And it really seems to be well suited to walk people through the basics of financial planning. So strangely, I think the fact that the book is so different from the current delivery systems is actually working to its advantage. Plus, we have an audiobook. And I find a lot of the younger generation really enjoys audiobooks. They like podcasts, they like radio still, and they've embraced the audio version. So, so far, so good on that front. But a great question by you, because I was quite concerned about that.
When you look back at the first issue of The Wealthy Barber and now more than 2 million copies of that original sold in Canada, do you ever pinch yourself? Like, could you imagine that this book that you wrote and these stories that you shared would resonate so widely and for so long?
No, I'm still shocked. I really am. When I wrote the book, I wanted to sell 5,000 to 10,000 copies. And funnily enough, its first year, it did better than that, but not unbelievably well. Like nothing that would have said what was to come. But then about halfway through year two, it started going crazy, and word of mouth kicked in as the big ally. And then a lot of companies started buying it to give to employees. That's been a huge part of the Wealthy Barber's success. And so it just kept going and led to another book. And then I got involved in cookbooks, of course. You've had Janet and Greta on the show with her books, et cetera. So yeah, who knew? I mean, one lucky good idea. And the funny thing is I got the idea watching Cheers. I was watching Cheers one night when I was working on another book format, and I thought, you know what? I should use a story format, use a novel to take the intimidation out. It was initially called The Wealthy Bartender, but of course the alcohol caused too much of a problem, moved it to the barbershop, and again, who knew? That's a different take, Dave. I always joke that with my buddies, guys have one of two dreams, or maybe both. They always talk about, right? Oh, guys, we should start a band. Oh, guys, we should open a bar. But you had the bar as a setting for a best-selling book. Imagine that. I did. And what's funny is I actually got about 3 weeks into the writing, but because I really wanted the book to be realistic, for people to be able to see the characters, buy into the whole thing, you can see why the alcohol got in the way. And so I quickly moved out of it. And I'll tell you a quick funny story is when I first moved it over to the barbershop and kind of sketched out where I was going, I drove over to my parents' house. My dad was principal at Cameron Heights at that time. Brilliant guy, still alive, but no business instincts whatsoever. I gave him the whole idea and he says, to be honest, I think it's kind of stupid. And I said, I know I'm onto something now. That was the greatest negative indicator of all time. And I went home and started working on it. I hope you remind your dad of that at every holiday gathering. Hey, Dad, you remember when you told me? I do. I wish I had that ammo against my dad, but thanks to him and you, decades ago, I learned to pay myself first. It's great advice, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. David, thank you very much for joining the show. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. David Chilton is the author of The Wealthy Barber, and it has just been fully updated for a new generation. Cut through the noise. This guy will help you do that. I promise you, it really has. It meant so much to me because it is exactly what it claims to be, a common sense guide to successful financial planning. And as you heard in that conversation, David recognizes as well as anybody, it's not like it used to be. When you say pay yourself first and you're trying to put away, that foundational principle is off your paycheck goes the money into savings. I know. Cost of living is what it is. It's harder and harder to find those savings, but boy, is it ever worth it. And the earlier you start, the better. Chris is with us on the phone this morning. Good morning, Chris.
Good afternoon, Mike. It's caller 180.
Farwell's Force official member. I love it. Number 180. Good day, sir.
Good day. That man changed my life.
Really?
I read The Wealthy Barber. It was given to me by a friend. And I'm like, well, this makes so much sense. I need to start paying myself. Before I start paying myself, I started paying off my debt. I don't think a lot of people realize interest rates on credit cards and things of that are just so high. You can't, even if you're paying into RSPs, you're better to pay off a credit card first before you start like saving money, because the interest rate is just, it's so high. When my wife and I started dating, we were into a relationship like 3-4 months, and I knew this was serious. And I said, if you really want to be with me, you need to read this book and we need to be on the same page. And since then, like, we live below our means. It's reasons why we have a house. We own older cars. So like David said, cars are just so expensive and such a cost. He really, like, I'm so happy that you guys had him on your radio.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad to hear that David Chilton's common sense advice made a difference in your life. And listen, I want to be clear about this too. Even Dave said when we were talking about it, he's got friends that own dealerships. I love me some cars. I've been a gearhead since before I first read The Wealthy Barber. And I've made some mistakes in that regard too. But I still love me a fine automobile. And you can make it work. You can make it all fit. You just have to, again, follow some common sense principles, and starting with the paying yourself first. I loved Chris's point about credit cards. Just for fun, because I stopped carrying credit card debt so long ago now, I can't remember when I stopped. I just pay my balance every month, and I use the card, obviously, to collect the cash back that the card offers, et cetera, et cetera. But just for fun, sometimes look at the minimum payment on your bill and how long it will take you to pay off the entirety of that balance simply by making the minimum payment. It's incredible. And to Chris's point, the amount of interest that you pay on those loans, if you will, through credit cards, pretty astronomical stuff. David Chilton's The Wealthy Barber has been fully updated for a new generation. Definitely worth taking a look at. Cut through the noise, slow down a little bit, go back to some of the meat and potatoes basics. This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just reading this quote from David Chilton's dad on the back of The Wealthy Barber, updated edition. Over 30 years ago, Marjorie and I told David, you won't be able to just keep milking your one and only good idea forever. Turns out we were wrong. The former principal at Cameron Heights and David Chilton shared that story. Thought his dad thought it was a pretty stupid idea. Turns out to sell more than 2 million copies in Canada, and now there's an updated edition of The Wealthy Barber. It would be amusing if one of the chapters, or even just a few of the pages, maybe the foreword or the prologue in David Chilton's book would be, if you really want to be a wealthy barber, write a best-selling personal finance book. I mean, it's kind of like saying, you want to be wealthy, just play the lottery. You'll win. Your odds of writing the bestseller might be slightly better, but not everybody does it. Dave, Farwell's Force member number 47, is with us on the phone. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Mike. I was given 2 pieces of advice more than 20 years ago, and I think it still applies. Number 1, pay off your credit cards and then use the credit cards, but pay out your bills in full every month.
That is a very good piece of advice, yes.
And the second one was, and this will surprise you, I had at the time approximately a dozen credit cards, credit cards for gas, different things. And the thing that the financial advisor told me was, get rid of all your credit cards and narrow it down to only the 2 that you really like to use, 2 or 3, really 1. But anyway, I narrowed it down to 2, and then about 3 years ago, I took on another one. So I had 3 credit cards, but I've always paid my interest in full, like no interest charges on the credit card. So I'm using the credit card's money rather than the credit card using my money. Have a great day, Mike.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. And yes, also did the same. Got it down to just 1. It's one that I like, and it has cashback attached to it. What else could I possibly need? I think you might agree with me that there's a special place in HE double hockey sticks, not just for people who run leaf blowers, but for people who are porch pirates, especially if they're porch pirating kids' gifts. Like, come on with your coming on. This happened in Guelph, where a man was arrested for stealing children's gifts from the porch of a downtown area home. A porch pirate, in and of him or herself, not the most newsworthy. Sadly, it happens far too frequently. But there's a twist to this story. About 4 hours later, Guelph police were called for reports of a suspicious person at a North End business in the Royal City. And that's where they recognized the same man who they had arrested earlier for porch pirating the children's gifts. So he gets arrested, he gets released, he gets rearrested 4 hours later, the same day, for lurking around a business and perhaps looking to break in there. Now he's being held pending a court date. One man arrested twice in the same day by Guelph police. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then let's talk homes. Are they places of shelter, or are they assets in our portfolio? That conversation coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Along with issues of affordability, issues around housing, how much of it we have, how much more of it we need, how we insert it into existing neighborhoods, where we build new, probably the issue of the day. And that's why once every month on the third Tuesday of the month at 11:30, we have a conversation with our good friend Philip Mills, who's the CEO of Habitat for Humanity, Waterloo Region. Phil, good morning.
Good morning.
It strikes me that the timing for this is almost perfect because last night I'm watching my evening news and they're doing a story about the downturn in the real estate market. And, you know, obviously when there's a downturn in the real estate market, this begins affecting people's livelihoods in some cases. Oh, the market's down, the value of the home is down, I might be working in real estate, I'm not making as much money, et cetera. And it occurred to me then, Phil, that the reason that a downturn in the market impacts us so greatly is because these houses are just that. They are buildings, they are structures that have value. They are assets as opposed to places that we live. And I get the sense from your recent op-ed that you're thinking along those same lines, perhaps for a different reason, but still thinking along those same lines.
I am. It comes to mind a lot. You know, when we talk about the housing crisis, when we talk about what's going on in housing, we talk about these detached things. These are assets, they're investments. There's questions about, you know, the economics of supply and demand and how all of that sorts of works around what are the costs associated. And maybe this is just the not-for-profit in me, but like at the end, we often don't talk about the people. Like, this is a place for people to live. This is a home. And whether it's a apartment building, whether it's a rental unit, whether it's ownership, like whatever it is, the intention here is that a person has a home, not just like a roof over their head. And it's somewhere along the way when we talk about housing, some of that home seems to have just been lost. I don't know when that changed, when they stopped being homes and started being assets and stopped being, you know, places where you get to like weave together the story of a family and instead are tied together with your investment in your, you know, stock prices. Like it just something shifted here and we talk about them differently. At least it feels that to me when I talk to people, their impression of homes, like it's just different. And the idea of the home does seem to be getting lost as we talk about how we tackle this crisis.
So what happens then, Phil, when we build assets as opposed to building homes?
Well, I think you build something different, right? If the intention here we're trying to create is a home, a place for people to live and thrive and grow and place roots and all that sort of stuff, then you start to think about the actual design differently. It's, you know, you're building to a particular goal. Is the goal to maximize density? Is the goal to maximize profits? Is the goal to, you know, create, like, what are you trying to do here? And if the goal is not a livable, thriving house, then like you're not going to get that. And so you start to have these things where the competing interests of, you know, meeting a zoning criteria or the, you know, desires of an investor, which is going to be profit driven, or, you know, companies like that stuff makes it harder. So then all of a sudden you have a house and it might not actually work for anybody. Like, does anybody want to live in a house that's designed this way? Was it designed with the end user in mind, or was it optimized to have the right amount of profit-making opportunities there? Because that's what this was. Like, that shifts things. And so we stop thinking about them as houses and start thinking about assets and start thinking about them as investments. I do worry about what that means for the person in the end who's actually asked to live there.
Is there a role for governments at any level, all levels, to play in this? Oh, I think we just lost our connection.
I'm here.
Okay, good. I'm glad you're still there. My apologies.
It's quite all right. No, there is. Like, I think governments have to be a part of this. And I think, you know, governments will always be a part of housing and how this stuff works. But like the where and the why, you know, there's that focus on, we're going to hear talk now about how starts are down. We're going to hear talk about, you know, how do we get more units into the market and all that kind of stuff. What I don't hear is that secondary part of it, that we need to see more starts and we need to see more units, because there is some of this is just a math problem. And what we produce has to be great for people, has to be the type of thing that people live, that has to be the type of thing that creates community, that creates thriving, that, supports family. Like, because that stuff can easily be missed when our entire goal here is just density, efficiency, speed. We can build something that isn't good for, like, I talk about this a lot. I've got 3 young boys, and like, this is that time of year where like the front of my house just becomes an utter, like, it's a bomb every day of just wet winter chaos. It is boots and hats and jackets and like I ask them not to, but they just drop it in a pile. But I'm lucky. Our home has a closet. There's space to put that stuff away. There's space to live and to be in that. I wonder, though, when I look at some of the units and I see what people are building, and I think, what would you do if you walked into this place with 2 kids? Like, where do they put their hats and their mitts and their school bag and their boots? They realize, are these places being designed for the people who live in them or to maximize something else? And I worry that in our fervor to fix a very real problem, we're missing the people on the end of it who are trying to fix the problem for. We're trying to fix this problem for people who can't afford housing. We're trying to fix this problem for people who can't afford where they're living. But our answer, like, it can't be so bad that you're like, well, this is the best you get because we tried to maximize for something other than you. Like, I was thinking about our Build Now project. We're going to build 10,000 homes. I'm still pretty committed to that. Like, that's what's happening. We're going to make it happen. But if in the end, I build 10,000 homes and nobody wants to live in them, or worse, people live in them only because they don't have another option, this isn't actually something they want, like, I'm going to feel like we've really failed. Like, we've done something wrong. Something has missed the mark if it is just a roof over their head, not a space that can actually be a home for a family, not a space that actually be a home for a couple. And I think it worries me that all we talk about are the economics and not the realities of the people who are supposed to live in these at the end.
So it's interesting. I think about this often when I'm walking around this community and I see the sign up that's promoting the next building that's going up, or I watch it under construction, whatever the case may be. Do we need to then start looking at different kinds of homes to build, even in the midst of this crisis?
Well, I just think we have to make sure that there's diversity in this, that the thing that is driving this. And I think that is an opportunity where the government can step in. Like, the market's going to do what the market is going to do. But if the government's getting involved, the opportunity for them to say, we want this to look like something that, promotes thriving, that promotes community, that promotes spaces for families to actually work. We don't want you to maximize to every dollar for an investor perspective, because you're not building these for investors. I want you to build them for the people who need them, the people who are going to live in them. And I think that's the type of thing that the government could be asking. And I think we as a community can be demanding of our governments to say, like, what does this look like? What are we actually asking for as we're partnering to find these solutions? And to their credit, I think that developers would rather that. I think there are people that would like to build, like, they want to build nice things. They want to build places people want to live, but the dynamics in the market have driven to particular things. Like, it costs. These things have dollars associated with them. And so you have a business, and the business is going to move where the market forces go. And so maximizing square footage for sale is going to be where this stuff ends up. And that might not be then the most livable space, but like, that has to be there. We can't lose sight of that, or we're going to solve a problem and create an entirely different crisis of, like, you talk about crisis of disconnection and of how do we keep people engaged in community? How do people feel rooted here? If their home sucks, like, that's not going to help. Like, and it's like, maybe it's just that rudimentary. Like, if what you go back to is an awful space that you don't want to be in because it was designed for an investor and not you to live in, like, that doesn't actually fix all of the problems we're trying to get at here. And I think we can't lose sight of that as we try to solve this housing crisis.
It is, as always, a great conversation, Phil. Really appreciate you making time for us on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Philip Mills is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region. He joins us on the third Tuesday of every month at 11:30 to talk housing, because I would say, along with affordability, it is the issue of the day. And I love where Phil is coming from. How many times have I said, and I'm no expert, I'm just looking at what's happening around us, and I know you are too, and you must be feeling the same feels. I have said that we are going to have to get used to our neighborhoods looking and feeling different. It's that simple. Where a single family detached home used to be, it might be a duplex or even a fourplex tomorrow. I've seen a couple of fourplexes go up in my immediate neighborhood. They don't look bad. They fit in pretty well. But that's different, isn't it? Because one of the things that really stands out, and I think this is another issue for us to solve because we are still so car-centric in the region, but one of the things that stands out in those new multi-unit dwellings that pop up where a family used to live, one family, 4, 5, 6 cars in the driveway. I don't know how they coordinate themselves for who parks where and who gets to leave when. And oh my goodness gracious. That's one aspect of it. I'll tell you this too for free. I was out walking Rosie the pandemic pup yesterday. We went down a street we don't usually walk down. I always try to find different ways to go. And there was a new build, and it wasn't a multi-unit. It was just a bigger house. It was kind of, I mean, it was a nice house, but boy, oh boy, did it change the complexion of that side of the street. Didn't fit at all, but whatever. These are the things that you're allowed to do. The other piece, though, along with what I have said many times, getting used to our neighborhoods looking different. I have been somewhat critical of the condominium craze, if you will, that we've experienced here in the region. Because every time I turn around, it seems to me there's another tall building going up with lots and lots of units inside of it. And I guess, but to go back to Phil's point a moment ago, how do you establish a connection to your community when you're 16 floors up and you get home after your busy day and you get in that elevator and you might encounter somebody else in that building, but I don't think you feel as connected as you might otherwise to the community where you were working outside. You come in, I don't know, those places are different. They're far less personal, and they're not going to have that front foyer where the winter clothes pile up. It's different. I don't know that I love that at all. I don't know that's going to work for everybody, but maybe it's just we're going to have to be in a situation where you get what you get and you don't get upset. I don't know. 2 things I want to share with you. One on the affordability piece, because it sounds like there's an interesting idea being discussed at Regional Council's budget meeting today. I'll touch on that. And then there's another aspect to housing that occurred to me while I was out for a walk last weekend. And I'm not sure we're paying enough attention to it, but I'd like to share that with you. And I will, coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. Stay with us. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Okay, a couple of things related to what we just talked about with Philip Mills, CEO, Habitat for Humanity, Waterloo Region. The housing thing, I'll get to in just a moment. It occurred to me while I was out for a nice long walk with Rosie the pandemic pup the other day. But first, on affordability. You may know, because we were talking about it during All News Mornings today with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas, so I hope you heard, Budget Day at the region of Waterloo. It's not final budget day, but they are beginning those deliberations. We heard last week, courtesy of a media briefing at the region, that the message sent was received. The message sent was, we need to bring in a tax increase of no greater than 5%. Last 3 years, we've gone 8.5%, 6.9%, and then 9.5%. That's a lot. That's a spicy meatball, huh? So no more than 5%. And the region came in at 4.94. I will remind you again that 4.94% number does not yet include the regional police portion of the budget. So it's going to be above 5, probably above 6 by the time all is said and done. But again, they are just beginning the deliberations and all of this. And even when they come in at 4.94, they usually find ways to shave it down a little bit more. We shall see. One of those ways, though, at the meeting already today, Regional Councillor Doug Craig brought forward a motion to say, forget this 5%. I want to see 3%. That's bold. How would you get there? I don't know. They'll be discussing that motion later today. But that's one of the things, affordability-wise, that Regional Councillor Doug Craig brought forward at the regional budget meeting earlier today. Let's get it down to 3%. On the housing front, here's something that occurred to me while Rosie the pandemic pup and I were out for a walk the other day. We were into, I think I'll call it the Bright Up neighborhood area. I don't know, because I was getting closer down into the Lancaster and Wellington, Hillside, St. Ledger. Anyway, so forgive me. I'm not coming up with the neighborhood. Maybe that's kind of Midtown. Doesn't matter. Please think of the Lancaster, Wellington area, if you will. There are a lot of older homes in there. It's a long established neighborhood in Kitchener. And I noticed as I was walking along that the mailboxes or the numbers on the doors were indicating that there are multiple units within these houses and or buildings. And I'm talking 4, 5, 6, or even more. And as we walked along, Rosie and I, one house that was kind of set back from Lancaster Street, a couple of older ladies sitting out on the porch. We had a wave. And again, here you've got a pretty large old house, multiple, based on the number of mailboxes, units within there. And I thought to myself, what do you think these folks are paying in rent to be in that house? The answer, I think, generally would be not a lot, would be my guess. But then I also thought about a corner like that. I'm in the Lancaster, Wellington area here. The house in particular I'm talking about on Lancaster Street. Pretty high traffic, not far from the expressway. It's got to be an area that, certainly not now, there was no signage, but at some point would be designated for infill, right? Some sort of intensification where more units can be created. Some sort of apartment building may go there. They're talking about that further up Lancaster Street by Guelph Street, right? The old Hog Fuel and Supply spot. Building some apartment towers, multiple apartment towers in there. But I just thought about it. And these folks, and there are many places like this around town. This is just the one that I happened to see. Subdivided homes into multiple units where the rent is probably pretty inexpensive because they've been there a long time and nobody's bothering to do much. But what happens when that changes? What happens when we do build something different there? Because, you know, we are, by designation of the province, and that's important to remember, we are a place to grow. We are moving towards 1 million people in the next 25 to 30 years. And if I'm a betting man, those houses that Rosie and I walked past last week are not going to be there in 25 or 30 years. They will be turned into other larger buildings to house more people. But what happens to the people who are there right now? We're seeing this play out in the Fairview Park Mall area, right? Ward 3 in Kitchener, where it's a duplex right now. They want to turn it into a sixplex. And a mother and child living there are saying, well, we're going to be homeless in the meantime. There is an opportunity the builder is making for her to return at the same rent. But what happens in the meantime, between time? Where does she go? Maybe she doesn't come back when it's built, because where do you go for a year, 18 months, whatever it takes while that's being built? And back to the folks that I saw the other week, there are probably dozens of people like that that will be displaced while the new thing, the new shiny, fancy, more expensive thing is going up. Where do they go? What becomes of them? Yes, we are a place to grow as designated by the province. So I would submit to you that it's up to the province. Like, it's really nice to say, oh, we're adding weekend service for all-day two-way GO transit. Oh, we're going to lobby for some funding for light rail transit phase 2, right? Some of these big ticket items. But these are the smaller details that I don't think we can overlook. Hey, Ontario government, you want us to be a place to grow? You better provide adequate funding so we have the infrastructure to support these folks who are going to be displaced when we build the shiny new thing. And these folks in the Lancaster-Wellington area are not going to be the only ones displaced in all of this as we grow, just like the province said it wants us to. I think the provincial government has a real role here, and I don't think we should let them off the hook. With all the other big shiny things we talk about, Highway 7, GO Transit, LRT, how about shelter for people who will be displaced as we grow, just like the province told us to? Talkback begins. Maybe you want to weigh in on that or something else. Open phone lines coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Every day from noon until 1, we set aside space so you can share your thoughts, ideas, hopes, and dreams. Open phone lines on the Talkback Hour, 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. We will begin with Barbara. Good afternoon, Barbara.
Good afternoon. I have just a comment I'd like to make about what you were talking about. When we're talking about the neighborhoods, we're getting rid of the old neighborhoods, and my question would be, what is it we're going to get people to come and look at? A bunch of high-rise buildings? Because Lancaster area and some of those areas, those type of houses have been there. For instance, the wartime houses. What are people going to look at?
Barbara, I wonder the same thing. I really do, and I don't know the answer. I think all I can say and what I tell myself is they're not building this city for me anymore. It's just a different place. And I'm assuming that the folks who come here to live here after you and I are gone are just going to accept it for what it is by that time. But it's much different, that's for sure.
What are we going to live on? We're tearing all the houses down and selling all the farms. I don't know what we're going to eat because Toronto's not going to have them.
Toronto's not going to have what?
Well, a lot of the same kind of food. We get a lot of things sent to us from various places. But
sure, yeah.
With our farmland gone and so on. And the other thing is that bothers me is about the high-rise safety. We don't have a lot of technicians, apparently, and nobody wants necessarily to be that. Who's going to take care of the high-rises when we've got issues?
How would you like to be the firefighter that has to go up 40 flights of stairs?
That's right. Or even in the winter, how do you get help to people and how do you keep the buildings warm? But why would we be building many more high-rises when we've got nobody to take care of them? That's another thing that I wonder about. And even in your new subdivisions, I don't know if you've ever gotten lost in some of those new ones, but they're really hard to get out of. Sometimes there's only a couple of entrances, to get you back to the highway or whatever.
You and I sound like we're cut from the same cloth, Barbara. Did you grow up around here?
I'm an old Kitchenerite,
Yep.
Yes.
You and me both. And I think that same thing. Sometimes I go into these new neighborhoods, I'm like, when did they get here? These neighborhoods never used to exist.
That's right, and it's just going to be packed with people. And, now you go out on the roads at 2 o'clock, and it's Westmount Road is, for instance, double lane at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's ridiculous. Anyway, those are some concerns that bother me. And the other thing I wonder is which part of the government made this, how many people that are going to be here? Who came up with that?
It's the province. It's the provincial government. They designated Waterloo Region and the Golden Horseshoe, I think we call it, so Hamilton, Burlington, in and around there, places to grow. It was legislation under Dalton McGuinty way back when.
So what department would do that? Not the gov.
Probably Municipal Affairs and Housing. I'd have to look to be sure, but that would be my guess.
Because we talk about transparency, and I just wonder, where did they come up with all that number of what we need?
Yeah, listen, it's a great question, Barbara, and I'm glad to hear from you on the show today. Thanks for calling in.
Can I get a number?
Absolutely you can. I'm at number 232, and I would be glad to give it to you.
Nah, can I have 233?
Sure you can. You can get whatever you want on this show, Barb.
Yeah, I'm a senior citizen, and I got to have something easy to remember.
Okay, 233 is yours.
Okay, and thank you very much. I enjoy your show. And if you get any answers, that would be really nice, wouldn't it?
It sure would. Thanks for enjoying the show, and thanks for calling in today.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Barber just became Farwell's Force official member number 233. 233, a little easier for her to remember. We are a force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. All I ask, 15 minutes. 15 minutes every day. I know that's a little bit demanding. You want to listen more? Even better. Oh my gosh, do I love it when you listen more. But 15 minutes a day, every day. And we'll add you to our list, our official membership list of Farwell's Force, because together we accomplish great things. And I think we will come up with some answers to what Barbara is asking. I get that feeling of change and what it's like here compared to what it used to be like here. Barbara references Westmount Road. I've shared with you on a number of occasions. For me, it was Victoria Street on a Saturday. And my beloved and I were driving, same as Westmount, 4 lanes wide. And I turned to my beloved and said, where are we? Like, what is happening? It's a Saturday afternoon. Look at all this traffic. Why? Because region-wide, 700,000 people today. 700,000. There's a lot going on out there. It ain't the little Kitchener that I grew up in. Jason, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Mike, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well, and you?
Good, thank you. You sound like a grumpy old man. Oh, it's too much traffic. Anyway.
Hey, tell me I'm wrong, pal. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. There's a lot of cars on the road.
Yes.
Just to address the previous caller's one comment about all the sky rises or all the high apartments. We have a choice we need to make, and that's between going up or going out. And I think, cities and provinces have been told loudly and clearly, no more urban sprawl, protect the countryside line, stop taking our farms away. And so if we are going to get to 1 million people, we have to go up. But I really wanted to touch upon your comment right before the break about Woodhaven.
Yeah.
And so obviously that's my ward.
Yep.
The city, we have rental replacement bylaws. Unfortunately, this particular development doesn't fall under that. We're working on a rent eviction bylaw, but then we're always going to have those ones that kind of fall through the cracks. That the current tenants are being told that they'll be allowed to get back into the units when they're built at the same rental price, but as you mentioned, what happens in between, and the likelihood, and I said this at council a couple of weeks ago, the likelihood of tenants moving back into a place after they've already moved somewhere else for a year and a half, 2 years, established some roots there, they're not going back. And these investors know that. And so, that old unit now will be able to be jacked up into price for a rental unit. And so, and I thought about this, in particular around this development proposal, that I want to work on something in more of an advocacy layer that, there's a fund, there's something out there that helps tenants bridge between if they do want to go back, that they bridge some of that rental increase that they're going to have put on them. I'm not exactly sure what I'm thinking, but there is something in my head that I'd like to really discuss with our staff and the rest of the council and see if we can advocate, because it wouldn't be unfortunately it wouldn't be us. It would be the province or even maybe the federal government, but there's got to be something out there that helps people bridge that higher rental increase between when they leave their old place and when they go back. And
but this is the catch-22, Jason, right? Like, I get you. When you got to go up, you can't go out. Okay, so Woodhaven, although a much smaller example, is going up. You're putting 6 units where 2 currently exist, but people get displaced. Some people might end up just leaving town. Like,
you're not wrong. And it's, It's very troublesome to me, that we put profit over people. And most of our world is profit over people. But at the end of the day, we as a community, as caring citizens, we have to. You're right. We have to start looking at those people who are displaced, and how many people, when they are displaced, end up homeless. It's not just people who have addictions that are homeless or who have some kind of a trauma. There's many people who are homeless because they can't afford their rents, because they're on ODSP or they're on old age pension. Seniors, losing their rental units, and so there's so many layers to it. But I'm hoping to really think of something I can advocate on behalf of the city and our community to the province to help some of those people who fall through the cracks of in between rental units.
Good luck with that, and thanks for calling into the show today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye. This is the challenge, and it goes right back to what Barbara and I were talking about, right? I don't disagree with the housing, though, then. The more housing that we build, going up instead of going out, but we're building it for the people who are able to participate in the community, who have the incomes for this new world that we're building. What a challenge. I'm going to tell you the story about Little Sundridge, little village up by North Bay in just a bit. But I want to make sure I get to the phone calls because your calls are important. I want to hear all kinds of different viewpoints. And Jeff is with us. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hi, Mike. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'd just like to speak to the commentary you made about the firefighters going up the stairs to the high-rises. I can share that there's not one municipality in the region that's able to meet the minimum staffing requirements for any building over 6 feet that's deemed a high-rise in any of the cities or local region right now. Unfortunately, that doesn't just put our first responders at risk, but it also puts the community at risk when they're unable to meet those minimum standards set out by National Fire Protection Association through case studies and for reasoning. So just something to consider. And also there's medical stats out there that the higher you live in buildings, the slower response times you have in medical emergencies. Sometimes you're putting at greater risk when having cardiac events. So before we invest in going up, I think we invest in the staff and the people that's going to protect those structures and those buildings and those residents, and then we can build up. But just like to share that with you, Mike, something the community should be aware of.
Appreciate you sharing that, Jeff. Thank you. Great to hear from you today. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I knew that. And I'm not here to advocate on behalf of any one professional association or union or another, but that's why I brought it up when Barbara and I were talking. And I just phrased it as, what about? Because I've heard this very thing. I'll add to it, since Jeff took us further down the rabbit hole, ladder trucks. How high do you think those ladder trucks go today? How high do you think they'll have to go as we continue to build? We've got two. Is there a third? I think there's two for sure. 50-plus story buildings, either in progress or proposed in downtown Kitchener. Already. You find me the ladder truck that's getting to floor 48. This is Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show. We got ideas today. We're trying to solve the world's problems on this hour every day. And I'll tell you the Sundridge story. Beautiful village. If you've ever been up that way, like you're on the cusp of the Muskokas, it's gorgeous. They're having some of the same problems we're having. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Talkback is your chance to talk back. If you were just trying to call in, try again. That phone line is open for you. I saw it ringing, but we got stuck on line 4. Line 1 is right there. 519-570-2545. Star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Francis is next on Talkback. Farwell's Force member number 36.
Yes, I have a community service here that should be announced a few times. The people that get their tires changed this time of the year, make sure You'll get it torqued after you have about 100 kilometers on. Do not go out on the highways. Not only will you save your life if it comes loose, but you could save a whole lot of other people's lives and disrupt a lot of traffic and stuff. So that's my announcement. God bless. Take care.
Thank you.
And stay alive.
A good point. Get those winters retorqued after about 100 clicks after you have them installed. Thank you for that, Francis. Really appreciate it. We've been talking a lot about housing, and Barbara and I got going on the conversation of how different it looks around here, and I get it, and I've just come to accept grudgingly, because I'm a cranky old man, but I've grudgingly come to accept they ain't building this city for me. It's for the generation that is arriving now and will continue to arrive in the decades ahead. Remember, 1 million people, an increase of about 50% from where we are now, projected, but still hundreds of thousands of more people in the next couple of decades here in the region of Waterloo. And it just looks different. But one of my great concerns is some of the older homes that might be subdivided into multiple units today. When it comes time when somebody decides they're going to turn that over for greater profit, what happens to the people who are currently living there? I know Kitchener has a rental replacement bylaw. I know other municipalities either have or will soon follow suit, but that only lasts. First of all, it only applies to a certain number of people. And really, if you're in the home now and somebody comes in and says, we're turning this home into a 6-plex or a 12-plex or a 40-story skyscraper, what are you doing in the meantime, between time? Where are you going to go? And I'm telling you, and I'll get to the Sundridge story, some people are going to leave town. That's what's going to happen. They're like, I'm done with Kitchener. There's no place for me in this place anymore. Sean, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I was listening to you. Oh, I'm 165, by the way.
Farwell's Force official member number. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. I was listening to you yesterday. Now, today you said profits over people.
Jason said that, not me.
Yeah, well, you sort of just went on about it. But didn't you also say that capitalism was the greatest of all the isms?
I do believe it is.
Yeah, well, no, I don't think it is, because now we're paying the price for it.
Well, hang on. Now, let me tell you. So, and I have said that capitalism is the best of the isms. None of them are perfect, but what you really need is somebody who is benevolent, who is going to use the money that they have to help others. And with these rental replacement bylaws, that does exist, Sean. They'll say you can come back for the exact same rent you're paying now. They'll even give you some money to help you with your rent in the meantime. That's the capitalists doing their thing. What's the alternative?
You just said how it's not going to happen.
Some people will leave, but you can't blame the capitalist for that. Why are you blaming the capitalists? They're using their money for good.
They're using their money to make money.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of capitalism. But they're also using their money to do some good. They don't have to give somebody rent money in the meantime. They don't have to let them come back at the same rent they were paying, but they do.
That's called PR. That's called public.
Now you sound like the cynical one.
I am cynical. I'm getting old.
Well, what's your answer then?
What's my answer? Honestly, I think the region needs to get into the housing business. I think we need council houses because, honestly, if I'm a private developer, I need to make money. And I'm going to be building big, fancy mansions to make money. I honestly think the region needs to get into the council house business. It's the only thing that's going to work.
You want the regional government to build housing?
I do.
Oh, Sean, I could not possibly disagree with that more.
Go to Finland. It'll work.
All right. Well, first of all, I get that part and the whole housing first. The feds, I might give you some room on that. Remember, the federal government in Canada used to be involved in social housing. I don't believe it's municipalities in Finland. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the state. So, fine. If you want to talk about getting the federal government back involved in social housing, I'm open to it. But I'm still not convinced that they do a very good job. I'm not saying that capitalism is perfect either. I'm saying of the isms, find me the better ism. I don't know. Interesting times, and we'll keep talking about them as Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I am still going to tell you about Sundridge, I promise. There's a connection here, at least I believe there is. It's a fascinating world, especially here in this part of it where we are a designated place to grow. And we're growing all right. We're growing up, 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 and away. And some people, I think, move away because there's no place left for them in those big, tall buildings. They get displaced. They scatter. But I always want to make sure your calls are prioritized. Your ideas, your thoughts, your hopes and dreams. Talkback continues. Greg, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike, 38 here.
Farwell's Force official member. I love it.
I know when this topic came up, I don't know, a while back, I just said, how about we quit growing? Like, why is this such a necessary thing? Then look at the traffic. Oh, now we need some ion, let's get rid of traffic because we're too big. Lack of housing. It just seems like the more you're pushing the growth, the more other things from back when it was just a decent town to grow up in, aren't the same and becoming a problem. That's quit making it so attractive for more and more to come. There's a million, X million more or whatever by whatever date. Well, no, how about not?
How about not?
And just I guess you can't backtrack now, but again, it's become almost like a Hamilton or a Mississauga kind of thing around here. Not the kind that you and I grew up in. And I don't know, it's basically ruined because more and more and more, and then all of a sudden, okay, more and more people, okay, where are they going to work? Where are they going to just all the different aspects of life just seem to get affected negatively. And I just don't understand. Here, pick a different city and let them grow.
Listen, Greg, I get you. I hear where you're coming from. I appreciate the call and the thought. Again, couple of things about that. One is I would say that we have to do some soul searching with commentary like that and recognize that we're just of a different generation and we have a difficult time looking at the city where we grew up look so much different, right? It's just, and as I said before, this ain't built for us no more. It's just not. Further to your point, though, and I think it was Chuck Howitt. I'm pretty sure it was Chuck, former reporter with the Waterloo Region Record, shared with me a while ago, and I haven't had a chance to do as much of a dive into it as I would like. But to Greg's very point, there is an anti-growth movement or a no more growth, because we talk about growth as being a very good thing. Well, what if it's not, right? For some of the reasons and probably more that people far smarter than I can talk about. Growth not being a good thing. What immediately comes to mind for me, and again, please understand, I'm not trying to claim any sort of expertise on this. These are just the ideas that come into my mind, and we talk about them here on Talkback. I'll share with you, you share with me. That's how it works. So let's just say we go that way and we say, that's it. No more growing. In fact, let's say we do that as a nation. Picture a Trumpian wall around the entirety of Canada. No more in. This is it. We're staying just the size that we are. The challenge becomes the population of the world continues to increase. And there are places in this world that are barely habitable today, will be less habitable tomorrow. Where are they going to go? Eventually, this is part of the problem. Part of the problem is how desirable a place it is, right? And all of a sudden, you're going to have 10 billion people on the planet all competing for less and less space because parts of the planet are no longer habitable. Just my thoughts on the no more growth movement. I get it, and it takes an awful lot to fit in as many people as we continue to fit in, and we keep trying. Robert, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Yeah, I was just wanted to make a comment. Like, you had the new regional counselor on this morning earlier?
Yeah, Joe Gowing was on, yeah.
That's his name, okay. At any rate, so they were talking they're running out of space, okay? So I just was wondering, that police station that they moved, that's sitting there empty, I believe. It's right there, right beside it.
Yep.
They could they not use some of that space there for people instead of spending $80 million?
Oh, my gosh. Isn't that an interesting thought, Robert? Because it's right beside the existing regional headquarters.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Boy, great idea. Great idea. I never even thought of it.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it'll just be a second. The regional building there, they ripped it up last year, the front entrance into it.
Yep.
And now they did it again.
I know. I saw that too. I can't figure it out, Robert. I can't figure it out.
At any rate, just my comment.
All right. Thanks for the comments. Those are great. That reminds me, what was his name? Shoot, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting. But called last week, first-time caller, wants to know, and I got to get to the bottom of this one. Barringer Road, right, out at kind of Barringer and Westmount, the left turn lane that was added after all the construction, and the construction cones remain in place. You can't use the left-hand turn lane. What gives? I got to get to the bottom of that. Regional Councillor Joe Gowing did join us this morning because he has a motion coming to Regional Council tomorrow that caught my attention. It seems really interesting. He essentially wants to do an inventory of existing building and or office space that the region owns. And my first thought was, is he thinking of selling some real estate, having it converted to housing? What might the idea be? Not quite, but along those lines. He said he's new to council. He was just appointed earlier this year. And he was touring around, getting a sense for what department does what happens in this building, what happens in that building. And he realized how much underused space there was. And the regional government has a back-to-work plan that says as of December the 1st, so a couple of weeks from now, you have to be in the office 3 days a week. That's not 5. It's only 3. So Joe's wondering, how much underused space will we still have? So he wants an inventory to determine the amount of space available, the amount of that space being used, and then 2 parts to it. 1, can any of that unused or underused space be rented out to generate revenue for the region? And 2, if we currently have underused space, why are we planning to build an $80 million workplace for regional employees? Robert says, why don't you just use the police station right next door to regional headquarters on Frederick Street? I don't know. I don't remember what the plans are for that now old police station. So that's an interesting question too, but it's a good point by Robert. The building's already there. The region obviously owns it already. Just move employees into there if you even need them. Whatever this inventory reveals will be pretty interesting from where I'm sitting. So I like that idea by Councillor Gowing. George is with us on Talkback. Hello, George.
Hello, Mike. I like it too because we have to use whatever space we have. We have to be smart with it. We've got to build up because, Mike, this will be the second time I've been displaced. I don't know if you've heard of a little town called Streetsville, Ontario.
Sure have. Mississauga.
I grew up there in the 60s and 70s, and then what happened in the 80s is what we're seeing now. It just got overwhelmed with growth. I had to move out of the area, and now, guess what, Mike? I'm seeing it again. But like you said, growth is inevitable. There's not much you can do about it, but let's be smart about our growth.
George, appreciate the call. I think we are trying to be, but we're always going to have our own ideas as to what smart and or good growth looks like. Russell says, if we don't, via email to Mike at 570news.com, if we don't grow, we shrink, and Canadians are not having enough babies. This comes back to the capitalism idea, but Russell's not wrong. So we say, no more. The walls are up. Canada is closed. Our birth rate is not matching our mortality rate. So more people dying than are being born. And eventually, what happens? And then, of course, when we don't have people, They're not contributing to the economy in any way. And oh boy, what does that look like down the road? So here's my Sundridge example. I know, 40 minutes or so after 30 anyway, after I said I'd get to it. But I always want to make space for you. I love hearing your ideas. I love engaging in these conversations every day. But here's one of the things that I think of when I think of those older homes that are housing 6, 7, 8, 12 people today. They might have a room or two inside. There might be shared kitchens, washrooms, whatever they're doing. Eventually, those will be turned over into bigger buildings with higher rents to fit more people. And yes, we do have bylaws in place that would protect those tenants to a degree. Maybe they can move back in at the same rent. That maybe they'll get some help with their rent while they're displaced. But how long do they wait? 2 years for the new building to be done? I think some, if not many, will just vanish. They'll be like, well, I'm done around here. I'm going to another place where maybe my rental dollar goes a bit further, something like that. I don't know. But here's what happened. And I'll grant you, this is anecdotal, but I can't imagine it's not happening in other places. Years ago, my buddy Daryl and I were on our annual motorcycle trip. We pull into Sundridge, just about 100 clicks from North Bay. Beautiful area, up getting into Muskokas. And we didn't even mean to stop there. It's just where the day ended. We end up at this little roadside motel, and we're sitting out there. We order in a pizza, got a couple of pops. We're sitting there outside the motel on this little boardwalk, having a pizza, having a drink, and some people from the trailer park next door start wandering by because there's some guys with motorcycles over there. They're hanging around outside. Let's go have a conversation. So we're sitting there. We start talking to them. And they told us, and this is years ago, they said, yeah, it's getting pretty expensive. The rates just went up in our trailer park. So we're thinking of moving to another one further north where it's less expensive. Why did their rates go up in their trailer park? Well, because it was the Toronto creep, right? People looking for places outside of the big city of Toronto. And, the Muskokas are getting pretty full and this is getting pretty full or expensive. So they had taken their dollars as far as Sundridge, which drove up prices there. Now the folks who had been living in Sundridge in a trailer park, no less, at a reasonable rate, are moving further north. The migration just continued to the less expensive spot. So think of that person in Kitchener that might be displaced from their room in an old house when the new high-rise gets built, and they're like, to heck with it. I'm going to go where my dollars go further. Those Kitchener dollars might work pretty well in Sundridge, but then the Sundridge folks have gone further north than that. Next thing you know, we're all going to be up in Thunder Bay talking to the sleeping giant. See how that migration works? That's my Sundridge example. I don't think it's far off the mark, albeit one anecdotal story. I guarantee it's happening all over the place. This is Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Lori sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com. She says, no, it's not no growth. It's just not so fast. Taking into consideration established neighborhoods. I've always had a triplex beside me, and now they've added an addition on it. The motion lights now shine into my TV room. I've been very polite about moving the lights, and after being told to, bleep off too many times, I've had to call bylaw. Growth should not affect already established homeowners. I don't know how it doesn't, though, right? If I'm being honest, we now have fourplexes as of right in Kitchener. So if the person next door to me sells and wants to put up a fourplex, I have to live with it because that's just what's going to happen. And I live in a neighborhood that was built in 1953, 70 years ago. That's what this neighborhood has looked like. It's going to look a lot different. Back to the phones here on Talkback. Ibrahim, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. Mike Farwell, Force number 212.
212 official member. Thank you, sir.
How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I was trying to get it yesterday, and today the line is busy. Anyway, to say thank you, Mike, for arguing or abdicating, for the against the speed cameras. So I wanted to thank you for that.
I am more than happy to do that.
Because even your argument was, Mike, convincing one. Because last month, if you remember, a couple of mayors, they tried to convince Doug Ford, to change his mind by saying that, okay, we would change something, when the student not in school, to off the cameras or something. The argument that you were saying that they were trying now to, but too late. So I'm glad it gone, and I was the victim of a couple of times of these cameras. Even it doesn't have to do anything with the safety, except cash grab, really, as you mentioned.
I agree. Thanks, Ibrahim. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, have a good day. I was giving more thought to it, too. And, I know they're gone, and I'm glad they're gone. Because this whole thing, this whole idea, we even said, we were being so nice, right? Let's compromise. Just have them on during school hours. Can I ask you a question? Where are the students during school hours? They're in class, right? If they're outside at recess, they're on the school property, not running around the streets. So here's the thing. It reminds me of the story we've heard multiple times. Counselors will always tell you the biggest complaint they get is speeding in their neighborhoods. So they ask police to come by, do some speed enforcement, and the first person that gets pulled over for a ticket is somebody that lives in the neighborhood, right? We have to be honest here and ask ourselves the question, where is or what is the real problem in school zones? And if we ask ourselves that question and we answer it honestly, then we know that the real problem in school zones is the person picking up and dropping off their child. That's the problem. It's the people who use the school and insist on driving little Johnny and Sally and parking in all kinds of cockamamie places. Trust me, I've seen it. I live in a school zone. That's the problem. And yet we decide that even at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, while the kids are in school learning arithmetic, somebody that inadvertently drives 47 in a 30 needs to be ticketed. Think of the logic behind that. What were we doing? Honestly, the problem in the school zone is the people who use the school zones every day. Think about that. And then get honest and serious about solving the problem. Walter, you're on Talkback.
Yeah, Mike. Listen, I just wanted to mention to you, I had an appointment down at Spadina and St. Clair in Toronto today.
Oh, you poor guy.
At 7:15, and I didn't get there until 10 after 10, and my appointment was at 10:15. Can you believe that, man?
Made it just in time. So you left a quarter after, so it took almost 3 full hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. And, I don't know how much faster this GO train, if they ever get that thing going, is going to be. But, I mean, what, are they going to shave an hour off that or something? That's oh, my gosh, I don't know what. I'm glad I don't have to go down there very often, Mike.
I hear you, Walter. And the current GO train speed gets you there in about an hour 40. So that's not bad. That's half of what you just dealt with today. My goodness gracious me. But unfortunately, the train doesn't run frequently enough. So it might get you there in an hour 40, but then you're going to hang around for 6 hours until you can catch the next train back. It's kind of ridiculous, but they're working on it slowly and incrementally. All right, I got to get out of here because we got a Rangers game tonight. Josh Piercy and I at the Memorial Auditorium for Rangers Storm. Your Harris Law pregame show starts at 6:30. It's a home game. That means Josh and I stay late to take your calls on Rangers talk and all of the action on the ice in between. Rangers Storm, this is your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey. And then I'll tell you what, even though I'm staying up late on a school night tonight, I'll come back tomorrow morning at 9 and you can join me and we'll have some conversation, okay? My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.